Not seeing oneself as an outsider when relatives who had not seen each other reunited, it was natural that there would be a bit of liveliness. Gu Huaijiang welcomed Madame Su with a smile and had her sit at the head of the hall. She swept her gaze across the room and saw that all 6 of her nephews were present. "Why do I not see the girl that you've taken in?" Gu Huaijiang did not know about the misunderstanding that had occurred outside. He merely thought that Madame Su was just concerned about Yu Fu, and that was why she immediately asked about her upon entering the hall. "She will be coming shortly. His Majesty granted her quite a few gifts, and she is there to receive them. You will be able to see her in a moment." With the Emperor's rewards being brought up, Su Yunyan's expression momentarily became unnatural. Of course, they knew about this matter. Su Yunyan had already carefully looked at all of the things given by the Emperor. For example, a jade carving of Chang'e soaring to the moon. The palm-sized moon was clear and brilliant, while the bit of crisp green at the top perfectly reflected the divinity of Chang'e. There were also some sleek furs. The white ones were fox pelts, while the gray ones were probably mink pelts. Once winter arrived, they would be great for turning into coats. What attracted even more attention was a black zither that shone with a faint green light. Aside from the name of Green Beauty, was there another zither that was as unique as this one? His Majesty really was generous. All of these priceless things were all rewarded to a young girl. You as well, you've become muddled. How can a young girl receive emissaries of His Majesty on her own? Also, those things are said to be given to her, but aren't they still to be given to the manor? You should be personally receiving them and having Steward Qi store them in the storehouse. Madame Su subconsciously began to worry about the affairs of the manor, and Gu Huaijiang could only nod along. He only spoke after she finished speaking. "Eldest sister, don't worry. Yu Fu has a good sense of propriety and is well educated. She can take responsibility for her own matters. Moreover, those things were indeed given to her by His Majesty. They are rewards for her zither performance during the Mid-Autumn Festival's imperial banquet. I have always let her take care of her own things. Take care of them herself." Madame Su revealed a look of displeasure. In the end, she is not someone of this manner. You're allowing her to take in such priceless things herself. If there comes a day when she takes those things and leaves, how can that possibly be good? Once these words came out, everyone was stunned. Madame Su might have some sort of misunderstanding when it came to Yu Fu. It was not the concern that Gu Huaijiang had initially believed. "Lord Marquis, young Miss Yu Fu is coming over." Qi Zhou stood at the door and saw Yu Fu walking over. He reported this to the hall and disrupted the earlier conversation. Madame Su saw everyone else's expressions and immediately regained her composure and put on a dignified expression for meeting a stranger. Su Yunyan also straightened her back and looked outside. They saw a young girl walk in. She had beautiful pale skin and delicate features, and the clothes that she wore were elegant and refined. Upon seeing that there was an unfamiliar madam seated at the head of the room, she smiled and stepped forward to greet her. The dimples on her face were exceptionally sweet. "Greetings to Madame Su." She then stood straight and looked over at the seated Su Yunyan, nodding in greeting. "Greetings, Sister Su. As this is our first meeting, I prepared a small gift for Sister Su and will have Yaolan send it to Sister's courtyard later." Su Yunyan looked at her in a daze. She never thought that she would be so beautiful. She already looked like this at such a young age. What would happen when she grew up? She could not help but retract the belittling gaze that she previously had and was now looking at her vigilantly. She did not stand, nor did she respond to Yu Fu's greeting, much less thank her for the gift. Yu Fu did not pay this any mind. She just stood there with her head slightly lowered, allowing Madame Su to examine her. A hairpin inlaid with precious gems, a jacket made of brocade, and this was one made with Sichuan embroidery. A sheep fat jade waist pendant and embroidered shoes set with shattered jade. From top to bottom, everything that she wore was exceptional. No matter how one looked, she was a dignified young miss of the manor. It was impossible to tell whether or not she was born there. A feeling of unease filled Madame Sue's heart. This was not the adopted daughter that she had imagined. An adopted daughter should not be given this much love and dressed even more glamorously than Su Yunyan. This girl is indeed pretty, but it's a pity that her background is unclear. But why did you even have Qi Ting sent out to the countryside for her? In the end, Qi Ting is Steward Qi's granddaughter. Are you unable to tell who is near and dear? Her words were directed at Gu Huaijiang, as she completely disregarded Yu Fu standing in front of her. Yu Fu, Qi Ting. Madame Su had brought these two people out for comparison. Everyone knew that the beloved girl that she was speaking about was actually the maidservant. Based on her words, in her eyes, Yu Fu was a girl who could not even compare with Qi Ting, a maidservant. Gu Shubai's expression changed and thought to himself that this was not good. It was possible that Madame Su had pretended that she did not mind the earlier misunderstanding, but it was actually a thorn in her side. Everyone noticed that something was off. Gu Yi shifted slightly, and Gu Xiang knew that he was thinking of doing something, thus he instantly moved to press him down. The two elders were speaking. Where was there any room for them to interject? Had he not seen that even eldest brother did not dare to speak? Gu Huaijiang looked at Yu Fu then said, Yao Hong, as a servant, disrespected her superior and tried to frame Yu Fu for going into my study. Eldest sister should know how serious this matter is. It was on Steward Qi's face that I did not have her chased out and instead sent her to the countryside. Disrespected her superior. Gu Huaijiang was making things very clear to Madame Su that Yu Fu was a master inside this manor. She was not some servant. Yao Hong. Madame Su heard this unfamiliar name and recalled when Yu Fu said that she had prepared a gift for Su Yunyan and mentioned the name Yao Lan. She immediately understood. She really was someone who did not see herself as an outsider. A servant born in Marquis Gu's manor. Was that someone whose name could be changed just like that? She was so young yet already had that sort of a heart. If she was allowed to continue to do as she pleased, would Marquis Gu's manor not end up in trouble? Sickly sprout Madame Su decided that she would make a show of her authority for Yu Fu. She would have her know that this manor was not a place for her to mess around in. There was still someone who could keep her in check. You're called Yu Fu. Is Yu your surname? Yu Fu seemed to notice Madame Su's dislike her for. When she entered, she had a faint smile displaying her dimples, but she was now standing there while feeling restrained. Her expression was a little uneasy. I am. She hesitated for a moment before quietly replying. The surname Yu is quite rare. I don't believe I have ever heard of anyone in Eastern Ling having such a surname. What country are you from? Where are your parents and family? These were questions that Yu Fu had never wanted to answer, and they had never pressed the issue. Madame Su was the first to ask her so pressingly. Her hand unconsciously grabbed the jade pendant at her waist and cautiously said, I am from Immortals Valley. When Gu Huaijiang was fighting at the border, he had been struck by a poisoned arrow shot by someone from Western Kuan. It was Yu Fu who had been brought from Immortals Valley to save him. Madame Su knew about this. If not, she would not have allowed Gu Huaijiang to take Yu Fu in. I know that you are from Immortals Valley, and I know that you saved Lord Marquis' life. There's no need to provide me with such a roundabout answer. Immortals Valley is not a country, and the people inside come from all three countries. Are you someone from Northern Li or Western Kuan? By the time she finished speaking, her voice was raised, and her tone was as if she was interrogating her. Gu Shubai stood up from his seat and walked over to shield her. Only then did she shyly raise her head to look up at her. She did not know why. Why was Madame Su treating her like this? This left her not knowing how to act. Auntie, don't press Yu-Fu. She would only be raised in Immortal's Valley from childhood if she had some difficulties in her life. Otherwise, what sort of child would not want to grow up next to their parents? You asking these questions, is it not just going to hurt Yu-Fu's feelings? Yu-Fu's identity was a secret. This was a secret that Gu Shubai had previously encountered, and he had promised Yu-Fu that he would help keep this secret. Now, it was time for him to keep his promise. That's right, Auntie. Yu-Fu saved father's life. She has been in the manor for such a long time but never caused any trouble. Please do not hesitate to feel at ease. Gu Wenqing also chimed in to speak for Yu-Fu. Madame Su looked at the group. All of the brothers were actually speaking up for Yu-Fu. They were actually willing to go against her for Yu-Fu's sake. This was backwards. It really was backwards. You guys don't even have a clear understanding of her background, yet you all treat her like a young miss of the manor. Though Marquis Gu's manor is prestigious, there are quite a few sets of eyes watching it. Are you not worried that a person with an unclear background might cause trouble? Madame Su found this hard to believe. She had only been in the manor for half a year, so how did she manage to capture the hearts of everyone? Auntie, we have never thought of Yu-Fu as a young miss of the manor. Gu Shubai faintly smiled, his eyes bright. Regardless of her surname or her background, she is a young miss of the manor. There's no need for anyone to think of her as one or not. This was a roundabout rebuttal that flipped Madame Su's words back on her. Gu Huaijiang saw that the atmosphere was not great and waved to everyone. You guys can leave for now. Your auntie and I have not met for a long time and have much to discuss. Everyone felt relieved and retreated from the main hall. It was only after getting away from the hall's vicinity that Yu-Fu's stiff body finally began to relax, as she let out a quiet sigh. Upon looking up, she found 6 pairs of eyes staring at her, and she could not help but blush. How could she have forgotten that all 6 of the people around her were trained in martial arts? Not to mention a sigh, but they might even be able to hear the movements of her internal organs. Did I say something wrong earlier that might have made Madame Su unhappy? You didn't. All 6 of them replied in the exact same way. Even the usually silent Gu Hanemo solemnly shot this idea down. Yu-Fu felt much better. It's possible that the misunderstanding from earlier caused a knot to form in Auntie's heart. Gu Shubai sighed and recounted the misunderstanding from earlier, and Gu Jogu added, at that time, Auntie's expression was already quite ugly. You all know that she values face the most. This misunderstanding caused her to feel that she had lost face in front of the palace servants. It's natural that she would be unhappy. So there was such a thing. Gu Xiang furrowed his brow and said, then this is horrible. That girl, Su Yunyan, loves vanity above all else. Seeing Yu-Fu receive gifts from His Majesty that she did not get will definitely make her feel jealous. If she says anything to Auntie, with how much Auntie spoils her, she will definitely treat Yu-Fu poorly. That's right, when that girl came last time, didn't she steal all of our nice things? As males, it's natural that we could not argue with her, but if she dares to bully Yu-Fu, I won't let her off. Gu Yi made a gesture with his fist. Thinking about Su Yunyan's unreasonable appearance, he became extremely angry. Gu Xiang knew that he hated Su Yunyan the most because he was frail when he was younger. Su Yunyan would always mock his sickly appearance. There was one time when he got angry and pushed Su Yunyan. She cried and ran off to tattle to Gu Huaijiang. The result was obvious. In line with Marquis Gu's manor's rule of raise boys strictly and dote on daughters, nothing happened to Su Yunyan. On the other hand, Gu Yi was given quite an admonishment. Su Yunyan could not sit still in the hall. Not long later, She ran out to look for Gu Shubai and the others and happened to see the 6 brothers chatting on a small path in the bamboo forest. It looked like they were being very secretive. A desire for mischief came to her, and she stealthily walked up before loudly shouting, "Hey, what sort of bad stuff is the sickly sprout saying?" Probe Gu Yi was given a fright. Turning around, he found that it was Su Yunyan and was given another fright. "You tomboy, what nonsense are you spouting? Who's saying bad stuff?" Su Yunyan looked carefully and found that Yu Fu was behind the 6 others. She was too short, thus her entire figure was blocked. She already had some complicated feelings towards Yu Fu. Now that she had been called a tomboy by Gu Yi in front of her, how could she possibly accept this insult? She hastily ran forward, but Gu Yi had prepared himself beforehand. He dodged back, while Su Yunyan rushed forward to try and grab him by the ear. "I am Gu Xiang. The one who called you a tomboy was Gu Yi." Gu Xiang grabbed her hand to protect his ear. Su Yunyan froze. She could not tell the difference between Gu Xiang and Gu Yi. Gu Yi was hiding in the back and suddenly poked his head up, delightedly making a face at her. "Not only are you a tomboy, but your eyes are also really bad. Ha ha ha. You damn sickly sprout, just wait and see if I won't give you a beating." The two chased each other and fought for a while. They only stopped when they were gasping for air, while Yu Fu stared in a complete daze. It seemed as though the two got along very well, completely unlike what Gu Yi had said. Su Yunyan was breathing hard. Seeing Yu Fu look at her, she hastily stood up straight, puffed out her chest, and slightly raised her chin. "Why are you also here? We were just about to send Yu Fu back. Gu Yi, you take Yunyan back to her courtyard." Gu Zhougu was the least kind, pushing Gu Yi out, which prompted another round of beatings from Su Yunyan. "Second brother, why don't you send her yourself? Whoever wants to do it can do it." "I won't go." Su Yunyan angrily glared at him. Now that this damn sickly sprout was no longer sickly, he dared to bully her. He wanted to send Yu Fu back but did not want to send her back. Was this not making it clear that he liked Yu Fu more? "No, I won't return to my courtyard. I want to go with you guys to see where Yu Fu is living." "Yu Fu, you won't refuse to welcome me, right?" She provocatively looked at Yu Fu, and the latter deliberately avoided her gaze, slightly lowering her head. "I won't. Sister Su, please come along." "Mother, you have no idea how gorgeous Yu Fu's western wing is. Compared to when we came here in the past when it was completely empty, it's truly too beautiful. Her room is so elegant. There are all kinds of treasures that I've never seen before." After returning to Lotus Courtyard, Su Yunyan gestured with her arms and legs to vividly describe the things that she had seen in the western wing. In the end, she added, "Compared to this Lotus Courtyard that Mother grew up in, it's far more magnificent." Madame Su had already changed into her bedchamber clothes. Seated on her bed, she was soaking her feet and listening to the sound of rippling water from the lake. It was particularly pleasant. Lotus Courtyard was located next to a lake. The beautiful scenery of the lake could be seen just by opening a window. There was a large area of lotuses outside, and that was why this was called Lotus Courtyard. She was in the middle of thinking back to the scenery from her childhood. Hearing what Su Yunyan said, her expression instantly sank, and she opened her eyes. "When I was a young miss of the manor, how could your grandfather have had as much glory as your uncle does now? In the past, the manor was not as large as it is now. Then why does uncle not give mother a different courtyard? Lotus Courtyard is both old and small. Although the repairs are quite nice, can it compare to the western wing?" Madame Su had never liked it when she compared things in this way. She was also like this in Jinling, but she was no longer comparing with the young misses of other influential families. It was just a girl with an unclear background, thus Madame Su could not bring herself to scold her. Could it be that she would have to tell Su Yunyan that she was not as important as an adopted daughter in Marquis Gu's manor? To a girl who had lost her father, that would be too tragic. Your uncle has 6 sons and has always wanted a daughter. It's natural that he would treat her a little better. She is also someone who saved your uncle's life. It's natural that she should be treated courteously. Madame Su said this but seemed to be unable to even convince herself, as the corner of her mouth was twitching. She still thought of Su Yunyan as a child, having been hoodwinked by what she had said. But she is not his daughter. A fake cannot become real. I am uncle's actual niece. If he wants a daughter, I will stay here for a long time. As for that little girl, Yu Fu, she'll be like a maidservant in the manor. At most, she will just be a guest relying on the family's support. She is unworthy of enjoying all of that. How could Madame Su not also think this way? That was why they never had any intention of taking Yu Fu seriously, nor did they ever think of Yu Fu as family. But the emperor had personally granted her gifts. In Marquis Gu's manor, everyone from Gu Huaijiang down doted on and loved her. It was clear that they all thought of her as a proper young miss. Look at the situation today. I only asked a few questions about Yu Fu's background before Shu Bai moved to stop me. He has always been a steady and reasonable child. It's quite evident with his actions just how much he protects Yu Fu. Madame Su let out a sigh, her forehead becoming gloomy. If she was just a girl from a family with a lowly standing, it would be fine. I am just worried that she is a spy from another country, and that she has come to the manor with some sort of secret that cannot be revealed. Marquis Gu's manor had an overly unique situation. In the past, the manor was like a cage. Things were strict and carried out in an orderly fashion. Now that Yu Fu was here, the atmosphere in the manor had changed. It made her feel uneasy because it was so unfamiliar. Spy. Su Yunyan clicked her tongue, and an idea came to mind. Mother, don't worry. I will go and probe around a bit to see if she is a spy or not. Hard to explain. Early in the morning, Su Yunyan hastily finished putting on her makeup, then ran over to the western wing. Passing through the inner gate of the courtyard, she walked gingerly around towards the backyard, then hid in a hall near Yu Fu's room. After a long time, she finally heard some movement coming from inside. Lazybones, she's only getting up at this hour. Su Yunyan muttered to herself, then plastered her ear against the window, trying to hear the sounds coming from inside more clearly. Young miss, how about wearing this jacket embroidered with rose patterns for today? Madame Gu and young Miss Su have just arrived. You should dress a little more vibrantly. They had suddenly brought her up. Su Yunyan did her best to press herself against the window to try and hear Yu Fu's response. After a brief silence, Yu Fu let out a quiet grunt. Her voice revealed a bit of sleepiness from having just woken up. The 2 younger maidservants misunderstood and thought that she was unhappy. Is young miss unhappy? When that young miss came over here yesterday, she did not act like a guest at all. It was as if she was the master here. Even we servants felt bad for young miss. This voice was clear like a silver bell. Su Yunyan gritted her teeth outside the window and thought to herself that she would remember this maidservant. The western wing had a maidservant called Ling, and her voice sounded exactly like this. She definitely did not make a mistake. Ling. Don't spout nonsense. Lian Bai understood Yu Fu's personality and knew that she was not such a petty person. Ling was commenting on Su Yunyan, and if some outsider heard this, they might think that Yu Fu hated Su Yunyan. That would become a problem. Yu Fu slowly began to wake up from her daze. Seeing Ling hang her head, she tried to comfort her. All right, I know that you were doing it for my sake. Don't feel sad. But everyone here is family. Harmony is most important. In the future, nobody is to comment on Madame Gu and young Miss Su. Do you understand? Yes, this servant understands. Su Yunyan did not hear her join in on bad-mouthing her with the maidservant and felt a little disappointed, muttering to herself, who would be family with you? Little Yu Fu, have you gotten up? Gu Yi's loud voice suddenly came from the front, giving Su Yunyan a fright, as she hastily dropped into a sitting position in the hall. It was fortunate that the ground was clean. It seemed that it had been tidied up with great care, and it did not dirty the dress that she wore. While moving to dust off her dress, she quietly cussed out Gu Yi, "Sickly sprout, your loud shouting really startled me. Coming to look for you Fu so early in the morning, why don't I see you going to Lotus Courtyard to look for me?" The maidservant inside said, "Fifth young sir, sixth young sir, our young miss still hasn't brushed her hair. Would the two of you please enjoy some tea while waiting in the outer room?" It turned out that it was not just Gu Yi. Gu Xiang was also present. Gu Xiang and Gu Yi had become accustomed to this a long time ago. Every time they came to look for Yu Fu, they would need to go and wait in the outer room while sipping on tea. Yu Fu got up even later than they did. Auntie Li had said that young children should sleep more. Only with more sleep could they grow taller. The two of them believed these words and did not like the idea of Yu Fu always being this short. As a result, they would always obediently drink tea while waiting in the outer room. Things were the same today. Just as Gu Xiang was about to walk out, he suddenly heard some suspicious sounds coming from the back hallway. He furrowed his brow and recalled Gu Huaijiang's repeated warnings to remain careful. Someone was secretly keeping an eye on Marquis Gu's manor and waiting for something to happen. With a sudden rush of adrenaline, he thought that the sound had come from a criminal. He turned around and entered the inner room. Yu Fu was currently facing the mirror while putting on her makeup. Seeing this sudden appearance, she was stunned. Gu Xiang had already leaped up and was soaring towards the back window. "Impudent criminal, where are you trying to flee to?" The entire window frame was shattered, as both Gu Xiang and Gu Yi flew out through the window. With a plunk, it sounded as if someone had fallen into the water. If the criminal was hiding on the other side of the window, it was extremely likely that they had been kicked into the water by Gu Xiang. "You guys stay in the room and protect the young miss. Don't come out." Auntie Li heard the ruckus and waved to the male servants outside to charge into the hall. They found Gu Xiang and Gu Yi standing there in a daze. "Fifth young sir, sixth young sir, where is the criminal?" Criminal. Gu Xiang had an expression of having done something terribly wrong. Extending his arm, he pointed down. There, they saw a girl in beautiful clothes struggling in the water. Her hair was a mess, and she looked to be in a truly terrible state. Was that not Su Yunyan? "Young miss, are you all right? Quickly go and save the young miss." Auntie Li hastily gestured for the male servants to go down. While Su Yunyan struggled, she also screamed, "Gu Yi, you bastard. I won't forgive you." Gu Yi was stunned and looked at Gu Xiang. The one who had kicked her into the water was clearly Gu Xiang. Why was she cursing at him? Oh right, this tomboy could not tell the difference between him and Gu Xiang. Just as Gu Yi was about to speak up and argue back, he saw Gu Xiang copy his usual voice and shout at Su Yunyan, "The one who got kicked was you, the tomboy. Who told you to sneak around in Yu Fu's courtyard? Come and hit me, you tomboy." After saying this, he immediately ran off as fast as he could. This left Gu Yi standing there in a total daze. "You!" Su Yunyan watched Gu Yi run away and angrily slammed a fist into the water, causing a giant splash. Gu Yi saw that things were not good and hastily explained, "Oi, tomboy, I'm here." That was Gu Xiang. It was Gu Xiang who kicked you. Su Yunyan glanced at him sideways and said in an annoyed and miserable voice, Gu Xiang, don't even think of taking the blame for that sickly sprout. I know that he was definitely the one who kicked me. I'm going to tell Uncle. Whoa, geez, now the situation was going to be hard to explain. That's how things went. Who told her to go and act so secretively in Yufu's courtyard so early in the morning? Son did it to protect Yufu and hopes that father can forgive me. Gu Xiang was kneeling on the ground with a look of honor on his face. Fooling around was just fooling around. When in front of Gu Huaijiang, he still took responsibility for his actions. It was only then that Su Yunyan knew that it really was Gu Xiang who had kicked her. Madame Su sat at the head of the room and thought back to when she had helped Su Yunyan get changed. There was a patch of purple and blue on her body, and this caused her heart to ache. If someone else had her endure such an injury, even if she had to fight to the death, she would get revenge for Su Yunyan. But the person who had given her the injury was Gu Xiang. It was her own nephew, and he had not done it with wicked intentions. He had simply mistaken Su Yunyan for an assassin. This left her unable to vent the anger in her heart. In the end, she looked at Yufu. This was all her fault. If it was not to protect her, how could Gu Xiang start attacking without even verifying the situation? How could Su Yunyan have ended up in this state? You may stand. Gu Huaijiang let out a sigh. It was he who had said that anything done to protect Yufu could be forgiven. He could not break this promise. Moreover, this matter really could not be blamed on Gu Xiang. Yunyan, how is your injury? What did the imperial physician say? Su Yunyan saw that things had escalated. Word of her going to eavesdrop on Yufu getting out would not sound good, thus she wanted to patch things up to avoid trouble. Just as she was about to say that she was fine, who knew that Madame Su would be the first to speak, her tone full of resentment. Falling into the water from such a high place, there are large bruises on her body. I fear that it won't get any better for another 10 days to half a month. Gu Huaijiang paused for a moment then said, Fortunately, the manor has the best ointments for that. Have a maidservant apply it every night before going to bed, and it will quickly get better. But Yunyan, why were you outside Yufu's window? Without a change in tone, he turned the conversation in that direction. Su Yunyan knew that what she had done was wrong, and Madame Su did not dare be too biased. I was thinking of going to look for Sister Yufu to play, but the western wing is too big, and I ended up getting lost. I heard them speaking from outside the window and could not find the time to go in. Her lying skill was not great. Anyone with a bit of experience would not be deceived by the child's words. This was the case for Gu Huaijiang and for Madame Su. Seeing a slight change in Madame Su's expression, Gu Huaijiang continued, It's just a misunderstanding. They've grown up fighting and messing around. It's nothing too serious. If eldest sister is angry, let's just have Gu Xiang apologize to Yunyan. Sure enough, the atmosphere became formal after the apology, but they no longer felt like family. Madame Su shook her head and looked at Yufu once more, saying with displeasure, In the end, it's you guys who have spoiled Yufu rotten. Marquis Gu's manor is extremely secure. Where could an assassin have come from? If not for treating her so preciously, how could Gu Xiang have taken action without even checking to see what sort of person was there? It was Gu Xiang's actions that hurt Su Yunyan. How could this be related to Yufu? This was clearly just Madame Su looking for a punching bag and using Yufu to vent. Gu Huaijiang thought back to the previous day. After the children had left, he had a long chat with Madame Su about many things. She had reminded him that there might be some problems with Yufu's identity and advised him not to treat an adopted daughter overly well. She also reminded him that men and women should not mingle, thus Yu Fu should not be so close with Gu Shubai and the others. The essence of it was that she did not like Yu Fu. Gu Huaijiang had also made his stance completely clear. However, this eldest sister had always been accustomed to just making arbitrary decisions. She was not at all willing to listen to him. Even to this moment, she was opposing Yu Fu. "Auntie, this matter was my fault. It's fine if you get angry, beat me, or curse at me, but it's completely unrelated to Yu Fu." Gu Xiang hastily stood up and subconsciously moved to protect Yu Fu. Yu Fu also protected him. Fifth brother was afraid that I would be in danger. Last time, something almost happened when I fell into the water. That's why fifth brother was so nervous. If it was Madam Su or Sister Su, fifth brother would also do the same. He just wants to protect his family. The words were very proper, and they deflected blame from Gu Xiang's mistake. They also provided an out for Madam Su and Su Yunyan. Su Yunyan thought about it for a moment and felt that what she had said seemed to be reasonable. She, Gu Xiang, and Gu Yi often fought and messed around, but it was not too likely that Gu Xiang truly wanted to hurt her. Madam Su's expression, however, did not change much. She could tolerate Gu Xiang refuting what she had said, however, she could not tolerate Yu Fu doing the same. Gu Xiang was a young sir of Marquis Gu's manor and her nephew. Who was Yu Fu to dare to speak back to her? The rules of this manor really do keep increasing. When the adults are speaking, anyone is able to interject. Madam Su sneered and gave an unkind look to Yu Fu. Suddenly, they heard Qi Zhou come in and report, "Lord Marquis, the eldest prince has arrived, saying that he is looking for young Miss Yu Fu." The members of Marquis Gus Manor did not have particularly great feelings for the eldest prince and the second prince, however, they were very grateful for the arrival of the eldest prince. This was the rumored timely reign, and nothing could be better than this. "Auntie, the eldest prince's status is noble, and it would not be good to delay. Gu Xiang and Gu Yi will stay here to receive your punishment. We will go and send you Fu to go and see the eldest prince." Gu Shubai and the others said this and all stood up, while Gu Huaijiang just waved to them. No matter how unhappy Madam Su was, she did not dare to offend the eldest prince. Aside from the second prince, he was the one most likely to be chosen as the crown prince. Only Gu Xiang and Gu Yi were left behind to watch their four older brothers leave with Yu Fu. For a while, they remained stunned and silent. Why was it that they had never noticed how mean their older brothers were? The eldest prince, as before, was waiting at the martial arts training ground. When everyone arrived, he was in the middle of taking a sip of tea. Seeing Yu Fu arrive, he quickly stood up and walked toward her. "Little Yu Fu, what happened? Have you been made to suffer?" In his memory, Yu Fu always had a smile, the dimples being especially cute. Today, however, she looked a little down. Her lively eyes were also not as bright as they usually were. Yu Fu subconsciously felt her face and wondered to herself, were her expressions really that obvious? Raising her head to look at everyone's faces made it clear that it really was extremely obvious. Gu Shubai glanced at the eldest prince's teacup and slightly raised an eyebrow. "Eldest prince has been here for a while, right?" The teacup was nearly empty. The eldest prince smiled, "That's right. I came long ago. Hearing that something happened with the young miss related to the family, I told the servants that there was no rush to report my arrival. In any event, I just trained on my own for a bit. How about it? Sending someone to report at this time, it didn't cause any disruptions, did I?" Rather than a disruption, the eldest prince's arrival really came at the best possible time. Gu Wenqing spoke up. Only now did he realize that this was not as coincidental as he initially believed. The eldest prince had done this on purpose. It was no wonder that he would appear like a timely reign just as Madam Su was opposing Yu Fu. Many thanks, Brother Izhao. Yu Fu picked up on the profound nature of the situation and bowed to him. It was nothing. There's no need to be courteous. The eldest prince gave her a kind smile, then began to discuss martial arts with Gu Shubai and the others. Yu Fu obediently went and sat inside to drink tea and eat pastries. Not long later, Gu Xiang and Gu Yi also came over with Su Yunyan following behind them. Why did Yunyan also come? Gu Jiugu was surprised, and Su Yunyan immediately retorted, "What? Does second brother not wish for me to have come?" Naturally, that's not the case. It's just that your injury has not gotten better, and this is a training ground. It's not safe. You should go inside and eat pastries with Yu Fu. Gu Jiugu would never say anything offensive to girls. When Su Yunyan heard him show concern for her injury, she immediately began to smile. Everyone took her to meet the eldest prince before she went inside and sat across from Yu Fu. The maidservants brought out more tea and pastries. Yu Fu liked eating crab cakes and candied fruits. The maidservants brought out more pastries in line with what Yu Fu liked for Su Yunyan. Now, Su Yunyan was unhappy. I like eating apple roses. I don't like crab cakes. As for these candies, they're for children. I really don't like them. The maidservant who had brought her the snacks was given a fright and did not dare speak. She just bowed and stood in front of her. Yu Fu had been silently eating her snacks. Upon seeing this, she said to the maidservant, "Go and bring some of the foods that the young miss likes. Go quickly." "Hold it." The maidservant had been feeling grateful and was just about to leave when Su Yunyan came up with an idea, calling for her to stop. "There's no need to bring anything. I can manage with eating this. You may leave. I have something to speak about with Yu Fu. There's no need to come back." Saying this, she looked over at Yaolan, who was standing behind Yu Fu, and gave her a look. The maidservant who had brought the pastries retreated, however, Yaolan did not pay attention to Su Yunyan's look. Instead, she looked at Yu Fu. Oh, she could not even order around a mere maidservant. Just as Su Yunyan was about to speak out, Yu Fu nodded to Yaolan. Only then did the latter hesitantly depart. Suddenly, they were the only two left inside the room. One quietly and harmlessly ate crab cakes, taking tiny bites while occasionally taking sips of tea. The other did not eat any of the pastries and did not drink any tea. Her eyes were focused on Yu Fu. It was as if she was a pastry laying on the side of the road. "Yu Fu, you must really detest me, huh?" Her words carried ill intent, and Yu Fu froze for a moment, then put the crab cake that she had nibbled back on her plate. "That's not it. Sister Su has a very magnanimous personality. I like you very much." Yu Fu had a very earnest expression. This time, it was Su Yunyan who was stunned. She had prepared a whole number of things to say, wanting to strike back at Yu Fu. Who knew that she would respond like this? She liked her. She was magnanimous. Her carefree words seemed to be earnest. No, she had come to be belligerent. She could not allow Yu Fu's flowery words to overcome her bluster. Humph. I see you aren't telling the truth. But regardless of whether or not you like me, I don't like you. You're just a girl with an unclear background. I am the one related to Marquis Gu's manor by blood. I am Uncle's actual niece, so why is it that you receive better treatment than I do? Ha! That. Then go and tell the head general to dote on you, his niece, more. Ha! Su Yunyan looked at her in surprise. There were no defects with this girl's head, right? Why was it that she could not even get an argument started with her? What's the point of telling Uncle? Uncle treats you as if you were his daughter. Everything nice goes to you. If I tell him, would he even listen? This was quite reasonable. Yu Fu nodded, moving her small head. The small silver bells hanging from her head also began to swing. How about this, whenever the head general gives me something in the future, I will give it to you. How about that? Or how about, whenever you want something, I can buy it for you. If it was just something that could be resolved with material goods, it would truly be too simple. She was fine with not wanting any material items. Would Madame Su and Su Yunyan like her just like that? Humph. You'll buy it. Isn't your money all from my uncle? What money of your own do you have? Su Yunyan was beside herself with anger. She felt as though it was impossible to get on the same page as her. No, that was not right. It was the argument that was failing to come together. Yu Fu earnestly said, I do have money. I have a lot of silver and gold. Yao Lan is helping me take care of it. It wasn't given to me by the head general. It's mine. Hogwash, where would a girl from a remote area get a lot of silver and gold? She really has it. At some point, Gui had burst into the room. He must have been eavesdropping outside the door for quite some time, as he was still holding a piece of clothing. Yu Fu looked at the piece of clothing. For some reason, it looked a little familiar. It was a small pink jacket that looked as if it belonged to the daughter of a wealthy family. What was Gui doing with it? Tomboy, take a close look. These are the clothes that Yu Fu wore before coming to our manor. Take a good look at the fabric, at the workmanship, and the embroidery. Are any of them not exceptional? These were Yu Fu's old clothes. Su Yunyan furrowed her brow and stepped forward, half doubting and half believing what had just been said before feeling the fabric. The fabric was mixed with silver threads that shone under the sunlight, however, it was not at all heavy. Instead, it was just right and was very soft. This was a great fabric that did not lose out to Jinling's cloud pattern brocade. Su Yunyan instantly lost all of her bluster and began to mumble, how could this be possible? Sixth brother, when did you secretly hide my clothes? Yu Fu was both embarrassed and annoyed. She was young and was growing quickly. Every few months, she would need a new set of clothes. She had worn this set of clothes while in Immortal's Valley. After arriving at Marquis Gu's manor, new clothes were made, and these clothes ended up feeling a little too small. Normally speaking, the old clothes that she no longer wore would be specifically tidied up by her room's maidservants. How could they end up in Guyi's hands? You have so many sets of old clothes. What does it matter if I take one? It's fortunate that I kept a set of your old clothes, otherwise, there would be someone who would think that you're a poor child who came to seek benefits from living with a powerful family. Take a look at these clothes. Is there any part of it that is worse than what she is wearing now? As Gui said this, he brought the clothes over to Su Yunyan to compare once more. He did not have a very complete understanding of clothing material, but he could see that Yu Fu's old clothes were of a higher quality than what Su Yunyan was currently wearing. Su Yunyan angrily slapped his hand away. Thoroughly embarrassed and finding things hard to endure, she ran out. Sixth brother, why did you make Sister Su run away in anger? Yu Fu walked out, wanting to persuade Su Yunyan to stay, but how could she possibly find her? Who knew where she had run off to? Gui scratched his head. He felt as though he had not done anything wrong. He did not want Yu Fu to be treated unfairly. But at seeing Su Yunyan's figure when running off, he felt that she was a little pitiful. Wait, he had not made a mistake, right? He actually thought that foul-mouthed tomboy was pitiful. This was definitely a mistaken feeling. It was wrong. What's wrong? With Su Yunyan running off, everyone who was training at the archery range came over and saw Gui holding some clothes. Why did you bring this out? Gu Xiang gave him a look, trying to tell him to quickly put the clothes away. However, it was already too late. Gu Shubai walked up and took the clothes from his hand. Looking at the clothes carefully, he then looked at Gu Yi as if he was some sort of pervert. These are a young girl's clothes. Yu Fu's. He had never seen Yu Fu wear these clothes. When Yu Fu first came to the manor, he was in Jinling, celebrating Madame Su's birthday. But aside from Yu Fu's clothes, the manor did not have another young girl's clothes that Gu Yi would find worthy of being hidden away. Gu Yi accepted his fate and nodded, revealing what had just happened. I saw that Yao Lan was outside the door, so I came over to listen in. I was worried that the tomboy would bully Yu Fu. Who knew that I really would hear her spout some nonsense, so I quickly had someone go back and bring these clothes over to let her take a good look to know that Yu Fu is not just some girl from the wilderness. What sort of girl from the wilderness could wear clothes that were worth more than the clothes of a young miss from an official's manor? The eldest prince's eyes landed on the jacket, and his eyes suddenly narrowed. Who knew what he had thought of? Gu Jiuge calmly moved to stand in front of him and took the jacket from his hands and gave it to Yao Lan. Quickly go and put this away. Next time, keep a good eye on them, and don't let this little brat, Gu Yi, sneak away with them. Gu Shubai looked in his direction and saw the eldest prince behind him. He then thought to himself that this was not good. What if the eldest prince began to have suspicions about Yu Fu's identity? It was possible that this would cause trouble for Marquis Gu's manor. Gu Yi, you've gone too far in this matter. Yu Fu's a girl. Are the clothes that she wore things that you can hide away just because you want to? If I find out about this happening again, don't even think about setting foot in her western wing again. Gu Shubai seldomly became stern. His brow slightly furrowed into a fierce angle. The younger brothers did not dare make a sound. Eldest prince, this was just young children messing around. There's no need to take it to heart. Let's continue training. Please. The eldest prince faintly smiled but did not say anything, leaving the room first. Gu Shubai followed him out. When he stepped out of the room, he turned his head and gave Yu Fu a look. She had always been clever. How could she possibly not understand Gu Shubai's intent? She was immediately shocked and began to worry that the eldest prince might suspect something. It should not be the case, right? He treated her very well and would not do anything to harm her. Little Yu Fu, you aren't mad, right? Everyone had left the room, and Gu Yi was miserably looking at Yu Fu. He felt that he had caused a huge problem. No, sixth brother, I am not mad. It's just some clothes. If you like them, you can just ask me for them. Don't sneak around and hide them. Really? Gu Yi was instantly brimming with vigor once more, snorting at Gu Xiang. Then what was eldest brother being so fierce for? No matter how big of a mistake we've made in the past, he's never been so fierce, but he nearly scared me to death just now. Ha! Gu Xiang let out a sigh and smacked him on the back of his head. Idiot. You think that eldest brother was really angry at you just for the clothing? How to make her like me, mother, if Yu Fu wasn't some random girl from the wilderness and was actually from an influential family, would still hate her as much. Su Yunyan lay in bed with her clothes partially removed, revealing the snow-white skin of her shoulder and arm. The purple mark on her skin looked particularly ferocious. A pair of hands covered in ointment moved towards the injury and applied it with force. The pain was so much that she almost wanted to leap up. Mother, be gentle. It hurts. Madame Su was seated next to the bed. She was personally taking care of applying the ointment and let out a sigh. Just bear with it a little. If it isn't applied with a bit of force, your injury will heal slower. You are a girl. You also don't hope to have any noticeable bruises on your body, right? Everyone loved beauty, much less someone like the great young Miss Su Yunyan. She gritted her teeth, closed her eyes, and nodded. Compared to this pain, beauty was obviously more important. When the ointment was finally done being applied, Madame Su handed it to a maidservant, then said to Su Yunyan, "What did you say earlier? What influential family is Yu Fu from?" "Ha! That's not it. It's not some family. I was just asking. Mother, what do you think?" Su Yunyan allowed a maidservant to dress her while looking at Madame Su with a look of anticipation. She was waiting for an answer. That's impossible. Not to mention some influential family, but even if she was from some common wealthy family, it's impossible that they would allow their daughter to go to someone else's home to be an adopted daughter. If not for the family being unable to afford for her to eat, how could they possibly do something like this? Her words were well reasoned. But what? Madame Su felt that there was something a little off about her for the past few days. In the beginning, Su Yunyan would clearly talk to her about how much she hated Yu Fu and things of that nature. But why had she suddenly changed her tune? But those clothes were physical evidence. There was also the gold and silver that Yu Fu had mentioned. She had verified that it was real. She did indeed have status and did not care about money. She was not someone with ulterior motives as they had initially believed. Thinking some more, she did not end up saying it out loud. She just let out a sigh. "It's nothing. I was just asking. Mother, don't take it too seriously." The days were getting cold. The bamboo forest surrounding the small path from the western wing to the main hall was as verdant as usual. After Gu Shubai finished paying his respects in the main hall, he subconsciously headed toward the western wing. Yu Fu liked to leave the front and back doors of her room open while she was in the back hallway. This was the case whether she was looking at the pond, playing with her white puppy, Pangzhou, or training with her needles. He was worried that Yu Fu's habits had not changed and she would be susceptible to catching a cold. As a result, he went to remind the people taking care of her. Who knew that he would not see Yu Fu in the western wing? It was Yaolan who came out to greet him, pointing towards the back. "Yu Fu is in the backyard." Young Miss said that she wanted to enjoy the silence on her own. "Eldest young sir absolutely must not reveal that I told you." Gu Shubai heard this and immediately knew that things were not good. Yu Fu liked liveliness. When things were fine, she would chat and laugh with her maidservants, kick jianzi, or fiddle with string figures. Only when she was in a bad mood would she like to spend time in silence on her own. "All right, you can go." He nodded to Yaolan, then headed toward the backyard. Sure enough, he found a young girl squatting in the grass next to the pond. She was wearing a light green jacket embroidered with weeping willows. At a glance, it was not particularly amazing, but upon closer inspection, it was full of vitality. On such a colorless autumn day, it added quite a bit of vitality. Like a deity of spring abandoned in the human realm, not even the autumn days could hide her radiance. As for the present, the little deity was currently digging at the mud. She held a small twig in her hand and was mindlessly prodding the ground. At her side, a small white dog obediently remained next to her foot. "Pengzhou, what do you think I should do?" "Do about what?" Gu Shubai suddenly walked up, startling Yu Fu, as she patted her chest. The 12-year-old little girl's chest was slightly rising and falling but could not be seen because of the thick autumn clothes that she wore. With her patting her chest, this movement was revealed, and Gu Shubai subconsciously averted his gaze. One must never look at women in such an improper way. Yu Fu was still young and did not understand such things. He could not be so lacking in understanding. "Eldest brother, why are you here?" "I came to see whether or not you were being good, and whether or not you're keeping your windows open even after autumn has arrived. Who knew that your windows would be closed, but you would personally come outside and endure the wind? What would you do if you caught a cold? Yu-Fu knew that she was in the wrong and grimaced, "Eldest brother, can you teach me how to get other people to like you?" Gu Shubai nearly laughed out loud. Yu-Fu was asking him how to get other people to like her. Could it be that she was not the most likable person? He could not hold back his laughter, and he laughed so hard that his eyes were watery. "Who do you want to like you? Is it a male or a female?" "It's a female." This was good. If Yu-Fu wanted to get a male to like her, he would definitely have split that person in half with his sword, or he would stab him so much that he would resemble a honeycomb. "A female, huh? Then you should ask your second brother. He knows best how to get a girl to like someone. Have you not seen how girls always like to gather around him at every banquet?" Gu Shubai was enjoying this while also selling out Gu Jiugu. Yu-Fu nodded, then suddenly shook her head. "That's not it. Second brother is getting young girls to like him. I feel that the older women like eldest brother the most. During the Mid-Autumn Festival's imperial banquet, when I was speaking with the madams from various families, they would always praise you. Older women." Gu Shubai instantly understood. Could it be that you want to get Auntie to like you? Supporting Yu-Fu, Gu Huaijiang, that brash man. He doesn't understand shit. In the distant mountains, fire-red maple leaves drifted around in circles on the surface of the water. A horrifying and shocking shout shook the surroundings, causing 3 ripples to appear on the surface of the water. Even the maple leaves stopped spinning around. Oh no, Master is going crazy again. Let's quickly get out of here." 2 young children who were playing near the water quietly snuck off into the forest. Even more people began to seek higher ground. This place had quite a few exquisite pavilions and buildings. Looking up from the bottom of the valley, the tops of cliffs hid above the clouds. Anything further above that could not be seen. That was where Sun Qi, the deity of medicine, lived in Immortal's Valley. This Gu Huaijiang is both literate and skilled in military affairs, so why is it that he isn't even able to take proper care of a child? If not for Yu-Fu herself saying that she wanted to go with him, I would not have allowed him to take Yu-Fu away. Who knew that this bastard would have no clue how to take care of a child? "You lot, quickly go and bring Yu-Fu back for me." 2 people stood trembling outside the door. Dressed in gray clothes, they cautiously set foot inside the room. Behind the many layers of thin white curtains was Sun Qi, dressed in white clothes, pacing back and forth. His footsteps were as ethereal as a deity, however, his tone was extremely explosive. "Deity of medicine, please calm down. Based on our investigation, Marquis Gu is treating young Miss Yu-Fu very well. It's just that Eastern Ling has people who look upon Marquis Gu's manner negatively. That is why they would do something like push Yu-Fu into the water, then that's all the more reason to bring Yu-Fu back." Sun Qi instantly cut them off. Thinking about how Yu-Fu was suffering while with someone else, he felt extremely miserable. The 2 outside the door exchanged a glance, then hesitantly said, "But the people who have been pursuing young Miss Yu-Fu have not yet left Immortal's Valley. To bring her back at a time like this, wouldn't the sorrow of sending her off the first time have been wasted?" "Humph." Sun Qi angrily snorted. With the many curtains muffling this sound, it sounded much calmer. "All right, then don't bring her back for now. But we must not allow Yu-Fu to suffer in Eastern Ling. Go and fetch Kun Wushang. Have him personally go to Eastern Ling to support Yu-Fu." In Marquis Gu's manner, Yu-Fu spent quite a few days thinking before coming up with a method for getting Madame Su to like her. "Auntie, quickly come and taste the dumplings." The days were gradually getting colder. All of the windows in the room were closed, and it would be time to start burning charcoal for warmth after a few more days. Madame Sue looked outside through a window at the gray sky, as feelings of loneliness filled her heart. Suddenly, she heard the voice of Gu Wenqing and the others. The maidservants had also become lively, but she could not tell what they were saying. She stood up in shock, wanting to see what exactly had happened. There, she saw Gu Wenqing personally carrying a stove over. There were even some small pots simmering on it. Wenqing, why are you carrying it yourself? Are you not worried about burning your hands? Madame Sue was both happy and worried. If his hands that were used for martial arts were injured even a little, would Easternling not have lost another talent? It's fine, Auntie. Gu Wenqing smiled while bringing the stove over to the table. Seeing Su Yunyan come out from the inner room, he smiled and waved to her. Yunyan, you come and have a taste too. The dumplings were made using fresh wild boar meat. It has a rare wild taste to it. It was hunted by eldest brother and the princess. The wild boar did not matter, but the kind intentions behind Gu Wenqing personally bringing a stove over were worth far more than any wild meat. All right. Su Yunyan walked over with a smile. Fourth brother, you should also sit and eat. Gu Wenqing's calm demeanor was always likable. Even Su Yunyan dropped her obstinate attitude upon seeing him. The maidservants came over and ladled the dumplings out onto a plate. Madame Sue took a look, and her heart instantly warmed up. The dumplings were in a weird shape, making it clear that they had not been made by the kitchen staff. They must have been made by Gu Wenqing and the others. They looked ugly, but the feelings behind them left a pleasant aftertaste. At first, Madame Sue was a little worried about whether or not her nephew would bear a grudge with her over Yu Fu. Now that she saw Gu Wenqing bring her dumplings that they had made, she felt at ease. Auntie, are they good? They do taste good, but they're really ugly. Su Yunyan picked up a dumpling and bit it in half. Looking at Madame Sue's expression, she suddenly realized something was off. Fourth brother, this would not happen to have been made by you guys, right? Dumplings made by a group of men, it was understandable that they would look a bit laughable but also be especially heartwarming. It was no wonder the usually picky Madame Sue had eaten a number of dumplings in a row without saying a single word about their unsightly appearance. They taste good, very good. Madame Sue repeatedly praised him. Looking at Gu Wenqing's handsome figure, she felt even happier. Of the 6 sons, when it came to being understanding, Gu Wenqing ranked first. She did not have hopes that Su Yunyan would be able to marry Gu Shubai, as he was the heir to Marquis Gu's manor and the future Lord Marquis. He would need a wife from an equally noble family. She just hoped that Su Yunyan would be able to marry someone like Gu Wenqing. Even if she was a little willful, she would be taken care of. Wenqing, these dumplings were made by you guys, right? I've really troubled you. Auntie knows how filial you are. Gu Wenqing smiled, maintaining his usual calmness. Auntie, these dumplings were made by Yu Fu. It was Yu Fu showing respect to you. What? Made by Yu Fu. Su Yunyan put down her chopsticks and very vigilantly said, why is she being so kind? There wouldn't be any poison in these dumplings, right? I heard the servant say that she's a practitioner of poison. She even poisoned Qi Ting. Accepted, fourth brother, how did it go? Did Madame Sue like it? Gu Wenqing returned to the western wing, and Yu Fu hastily went up to greet him. Small spots of flour were still sticking to her small face. He reached out a hand and rubbed the top of her nose, covering his finger in a layer of white powder. Bringing it down for Yu Fu to see, Yu Fu began to giggle. This was her first time making dumplings. In the beginning, she was a complete mess, and her entire body was covered in flour. She worked for a long time before making some that had a decent shape. She then asked Gu Wenqing to send them to Madame Sue's place for her. She would use this method to try and get her to like her. Hearing Yu Fu laugh, Gu Wenqing also laughed. She did. Auntie really liked them. Really? Yu Fu leaped with joy. As Gu Wenqing smiled, his eyes gradually began to dim. He did not reveal the whole truth. Madame Su's initial assessment was that she liked it. After knowing that they had been made by Yu Fu, she actually declined to eat any more. On the surface, she was polite and said that Yu Fu had been considerate. Her eyes had a distant look. It seemed that this method was not too effective. He needed to help Yu Fu come up with other ideas. A few days later, Madame Su went to see Gu Huaijiang. She saw that he was soaking his feet, and there was a sweet smell in the room. Why have you decided to soak your feet in the middle of the day? This smell is quite nice. The two of them were roughly the same age, and they were siblings born from the same parents, thus there was no need to avoid such topics. Gu Huaijiang continued to remain seated and said, "Eldest sister, please sit. I'll be done in a moment. I'm not soaking my feet. I have some old injuries, and Yu Fu has prescribed me some medicine to keep the cold away. So it was for the sake of staving off the cold." Madame Su could not help but take a couple extra looks. Gu Huaijiang had a sudden realization. Madame Su was someone who was quite afraid of the cold. How about you also have Yu Fu prepare some for you? Adjusting the medicine based on the person would be a little more effective. Hearing Yu Fu get brought up, Madame Su subconsciously shook her head. I know that she is a disciple of the deity of medicine, but I heard that she is a practitioner of poison, nor a practitioner of medicine. The medicine that she prepares, Madame Su hesitated for a moment, reaching a hand out towards the basin that Gu Huaijiang was soaking his feet in. She wanted to take out a bit of the medicine to see what exactly it was. Gu Huaijiang suddenly raised his head and smiled honestly. Eldest sister really is smart. This is indeed poison. The outreached hand was quickly pulled back. Madame Su subconsciously wiped her hand with a handkerchief. It was fortunate that she did not come into contact with the medicine and only touched a bit of the water. She's actually using poisonous herbs to fend off the cold. And you believe her? She was so frightened that she wanted to pull Gu Huaijiang's feet out, but the latter waved his hand and did not allow her to get close. He then pulled his feet out and dried off his feet. Yu Fu had said that he should soak his feet for a quarter of an hour, and it had just reached that time. Eldest sister, don't you think that I look perfectly fine? Now that he had pulled his feet out of the basin, Gu Huaijiang stood up and did a quick stretch. Madame Su observed that he was only wearing a white shirt, yet his face was red. His spirits were even better than before autumn had arrived. No, that was wrong. People who feared the cold would become more and more listless as the days became colder. Gu Huaijiang, with all of his injuries, should have been affected by the cold. Why was it that he looked like there was nothing wrong? Could it be that the poisonous herbs that Yu Fu had used to stave off the cold really were effective? Amitabha, it's because you are fortunate and have a strong life force that you are fine. Don't believe Yu Fu for everything, after all, she isn't your actual daughter. Madame Su said this on the surface but, in the end, did not say anything about not allowing Gu Huaijiang to continue using this treatment. Gu Huaijiang smiled but did not say anything. Putting on his outer clothes, he then went out to speak with her. It seemed that Yu Fu's attempts to make Madame Su happy over the past few days was having a bit of an effect. I know. There's no need to worry about it. My life was saved by her. Even if she wanted to reclaim it, so what? Moreover, Yu Fu would not do anything to harm me. Eldest sister understands this quite clearly. She just could not bring herself to put aside her stature and accept Yu Fu. It was not that she truly suspected Yu Fu would harm them. What do you mean reclaim? You are not allowed to say such inauspicious things. In the manner, Yu Fu does not need to worry about any of the necessities and can enjoy being a great young miss. It's natural that she wouldn't want to harm you. Without you, how could she be a young miss? Madame Su curled her lips into a smirk but still ended up asking about the herbs used. Do tell, what exactly is the deal with those poisonous herbs? With so many of them mixed together, is there really no harm to people? Gu Huaijiang said. Yu Fu said that medicine is 30% poison. Medicine and poison are the same things at their essence. There are times when normal medicine can take a person's life, and there are times when a poison can save a person's life. Yu Fu is a practitioner of poison, but didn't she save my life? He had found a chance to tell Madame Su all about Yu Fu's good points, especially the part where she had saved his life. Madame Su loved her younger brother dearly. It was natural that she would treat the person who had saved his life a bit better. It was not just Gu Huaijiang. Everyone in Marquis Gu's manor, from the sons to the servants, including Qi Zhou, would talk to her about Yu Fu's good points. They even said that Qi Ting being chased away could only be blamed on herself. Yu Fu had already been very tolerant of her. What sort of situation was this? Madame Su snorted, not knowing how to handle this bit of information. Either way, everything that Yu Fu says is correct. Don't think that I can't tell that you guys have been spending the past few days trying to work with her to curry favor with me. Isn't that right? I won't fall for it. She said this then stood up. Gu Huaijiang could not stop her. He just waved to Qi Zhou, quickly go and send the medicine that Yu Fu prepared to Madame Gu. Tell her to soak every day for a quarter of an hour. I'll go immediately. Madame Su had already left the courtyard. Seeing Qi Zhou rush out to give her the medicine, she hesitated and looked at it for a while before turning around and leaving. Mother Su, go ahead and accept it. Without even turning her head, she instructed the old woman following her. Princess of Western Kun. Part 1. Returning from court on this day, Gu Huaijiang brought with him some shocking news. What? A special envoy from Western Kun will be coming. It had only been half a year since the most recent battle between Western Kun and Eastern Ling, yet Western Kun was actually sending a special envoy to act friendly. This really was so shameless. Which of the battles was not initiated as a result of Western Kun's provocation? Which of the times did not start with them aggressing on our Eastern Ling's land? Now, they have the face to come and act friendly. Shit! Gu Yi spoke bluntly and unceremoniously described Western Kun as bandits. Gu Huaijiang glanced at him but did not refute what he had said. He just shook his head. His Majesty has already agreed to this, and he even wishes to warmly welcome the special envoy. When the special envoy from Western Kun comes, they are not coming as an enemy country. Instead, they are coming as a friendly country. Do you understand? As members of Eastern Ling's top general's family, it was natural that they understood the difference between an enemy country and a friendly country. Gu Shubai said, Father, don't worry. As long as the special envoy from Western Kun doesn't make any strange moves, we will definitely treat them respectfully. We won't damage relations between the two countries. Gu Huaijiang nodded, then suddenly heard Yu Fu ask, Head General, what sort of person is coming as the special envoy? What sort of person? Could it be that Yu Fu, a little girl, would know someone from Western Kun's court? Everyone looked at her, and Yu Fu was in a daze. She did not think that her identity would be suspected. She grinned and said, I was meaning to say, is the person coming a princess or a prince? Everyone's inquisitive looks instantly began to dissipate, as they began to smile. So Yu Fu was worried about this. What, are you worried that if the special envoy is a princess, your sixth brother will be stolen away to be her husband? Gu Yi had a stupid look on his face while moving to Yu Fu's side. In a contentious tone, he said, I knew that our little Yu-Fu loved her sixth brother the most. Before he could finish speaking, Gu Xiang dragged him back. It's not a princess, nor is it a prince. The two countries had previously been enemies. No matter how brave the Kun ruler might be, he would not dare to send his own children. The one coming is just a normal second-rank official. I don't know their name. Gu Huaijiang said while glancing at Gu Yi, warning him to pay attention to the difference between males and females. Don't go getting close to Yu Fu for no good reason. So it was just an unknown official. Then Yu Fu could be at ease. She let out a faint sigh of relief, and everyone present suddenly stiffened up. They all had exceptional martial arts ability. They were also sitting so close that everyone could hear Yu Fu's breathing. It seemed that she was quite nervous about Western Kuin's choice for their special envoy. Upon hearing that it was an unknown official, she seemed to relax. Wait, she definitely knew the imperial family of Western Kun. Could it be that Yu Fu was a descendant of a high-ranking official from Western Kun? Gu Shubai also recalled what Yao Lan had said to Qi Ting. She had said that Yu Fu's status could only be rivaled by Princess Danyang. Could it be that she was Western Kun's princess? This sort of speculation caused Gu Shubai to frown. The room fell silent for a while, but before Yu Fu could react, everyone mysteriously continued their previous conversation. You know, I don't feel that Western Kun is really that shameless. To the people of Western Kun, the expansion of their territory is a good thing. Our Easternling's territory is fertile, so the people of Western Kun can't be blamed for wanting it. The one who had insulted Western Kun the most earlier was Gu Yi. Now, Gu Yi was also the one saying the most nice things for Western Kun. Gu Zhougu said, that's right. The two countries have different customs. It's natural that they would have different ways of doing things. Our Easternling observes Confucian ideals and treats people with kindness. It never aggresses other countries. Western Kun has more liberal customs. Even women can set foot on the battlefield. It's just that they're a little belligerent, a little belligerent. That's right, that's right. Gu Wenqing glanced at Yu Fu and also said something nice about Western Kun. Yu Fu was completely confused. Sixth brother, weren't you someone who hated Western Kun the most? Head General was even affected by a poison arrow shot by someone from Western Kun. Why are you saying that they can't be blamed? When have I ever hated Western Kun? It never happened. Gu Yi refused to admit it, even using Gu Huaijiang as a meat shield. Father even said that Western Kun sending out a special envoy to Easternling means that they are friendly with Easternling. How can we hate a friendly country? That's not good, not good. Yu Fu could not figure out what he was saying and just blindly nodded. Oh, when everyone dispersed, Gu Shubai headed toward the outer study while nobody was paying attention. The outer study had a number of books on the neighboring countries. He was going to take a look at whether or not Western Kun had lost a princess. Eldest brother. A figure suddenly appeared behind him on the small path. It turned out to be Gu Zhougu. He happened to be looking at him with a ponderous expression. It's so late. What is eldest brother going to the outer study for? Gu Shubai was stunned and pretended that everything was normal. Well, since it's so late, what is second brother doing here? He could not reveal Yu Fu's secret and could only speak vaguely. Gu Zhougu stepped forward and placed a hand on his shoulder. Eldest brother, stop pretending. Even that brat Gui noticed. Do you think I can't tell? It's very likely that Yu Fu is someone from Western Kun. Based on her academic level and habits, it's even possible that she's a child of a prominent family. Child of a prominent family. Gu Shubai smiled and thought to himself that as long as she was not a princess of Western Kun, it would be fine. If Yin Yan found out that Marquis Gu's manor had taken in a princess of Western Kuan, it would be inevitable that he would accuse them of the crime of working for the enemy. That would truly be bad. Let's go then. Let's go to the outer study to see Western Kuan's books to see if we can find some clues. The two walked off together. At the same time, Gu Huaijiang gave the order for some people to go into Western Kuan to investigate. If Yu Fu's identity is discovered, it must not be revealed. If not, someone with ulterior motives will use that to make a statement. Young Miss, the maidservant of the cousins Young Miss has come. Yaolan entered through the door like a whirlwind and headed straight for Yu Fu, speaking to her while giggling. Lian Bai and the others looked at them while quietly worrying about what Su Yunyan might do this time. Yu Fu was surprised and said, "Sister Su wants me to go shopping with her. Who else is going?" Her maidservant did not say. "Young Miss, Lord Marquis said that you need to pay attention to your safety. If it's not necessary, avoid going outside. With so many people wandering around in the streets, how about not going?" Yaolan mumbled, but Yu Fu understood. In truth, she did really want to go out and play. The reason that she even mentioned stopping her was that she herself did not want to go out with Su Yunyan. "Then go and ask Head General. If he agrees to it, I will bring you guys out to play. How about it?" Yu Fu smiled and turned to look at Lian Zhu, Lian Bai, and the others. The two older maidservants could not hold back and began to smile. Yin Ling and Yin Shui, the two younger maidservants, were even more excited. "You guys, keep it down a little, or the roof might collapse." Auntie Li entered behind them and deliberately put on a mean look to lecture Yin Lin and Yin Shui, and the two immediately fell silent. Forget it, I know that you guys have gotten used to being restrained while in the manor. If Lord Marquis agrees, it would be fine if you accompanied the young miss out to play." Seeing the two of them shrink back like frightened rabbits, Auntie Li could not stop the corners of her lips from curling into a smile. Yu Fu quickly sent a maidservant to ask Gu Huaijiang. They had obtained his approval, but they would need to bring some older brothers to provide them with security. Sending another group to ask around, Gu Xiang and Gu Yi had been kept back by Teacher Lin, while Gu Wenqing was with Madame Su as a guest. "Then we'll have to ask eldest brother and second brother to go out with us. Third brother will most likely be training. He doesn't like busy places, so I don't know if he would want to go out with us." When Su Yunyan arrived at the entrance of the manor with her two maidservants, Gu Shubai and Gu Zhougu were already there. Even Gu Hanemo was there. What caused her to do a double take was that Yu Fu had brought a total of 5 maidservants. What a grand occasion! She immediately felt displeased and stepped forward while waving her handkerchief. "Why are you bringing so many maidservants out with you? Bringing so many people with you is really conspicuous. If you want to feel mighty, do it in the manor. Don't go out to cause trouble." If not for the fact that they were the only 2 young girls in the manor, she would not want to go out with Yu Fu. In addition to this, Madame Su was using Yu Fu's poisonous herbs to fend off the cold. She said that they were very effective, and that was why she had changed her mind on Yu Fu and wanted them to go out together. Who knew that she would actually bring out such a grand parade? Comparatively, she looked quite shabby for only having 2 maidservants behind her. Lian Zhu and Lian Bai quickly hid their smiles upon hearing this. Standing there, they felt that neither advancing nor retreating were correct. "Young miss, how about we don't go? Just bringing Yaolan will be fine," Lian Bai spoke in a small voice. "Sister Su has misunderstood. It's not to appear mighty. Having 3 brothers here is truly mighty. Lian Zhu and the others don't have much time to go out after taking care of me. They're finally getting a rare chance to go out and play. That's why I wanted to bring them out to relieve their boredom. If Sister Su doesn't like that, I will have them follow at a distance. Following at a distance was also fine. Lian Zhu and the others would be able to go out and be able to play to their heart's content. They would not need to take care of them. Humph. Su Yunyan begrudgingly agreed, then looked at Gu Shubai and came up with a wicked idea. Eldest brother, let's go. She extended a hand to Gu Shubai and stole the way that only Yu Fu called him. Yu Fu was stunned, as a pair of large and warm hands wrapped around her hand, carefully protecting it in his palm. Gu Shubai held Yu Fu's hand and indifferently said to Su Yunyan, "You should call me cousin. Also, boys and girls should not get too close." After saying this, he did not wait for her to reply and just started walking out with Yu Fu in tow. Su Yunyan was frozen in place and only managed to recover after a long while, shouting at their backs, "Then is Yu Fu not a girl?" Arriving at the corner, they found a crowd of people gathered around in a circle. The sound of a beating drum could be heard coming from the middle. Out of curiosity, they stepped forward and found a father and son duo putting on a performance. Their performance was particularly interesting. It was snake taming. They initially thought that the two girls would be afraid, but who knew that Su Yunyan would be brave enough to want to watch such a thing. Yu Fu also seemed to be accustomed to seeing such a thing, as she did not have much of a reaction. Since the two girls were not afraid, they would just watch for a while. To the guests passing by, "Don't miss it. This venomous snake is one that I caught in Shenangjia. It's matchlessly venomous." The man performing the snake taming saw that there were more and more people gathering around, and there was no shortage of those with money to spare. He quickly had his young son bring out the treasure that was hidden at the bottom of the chest. The pale youth was a little hesitant. Having been glared at by his father, he could only obediently go and fetch the large snake. Wow! It's a large cobra. A large black snake wriggled its way out of the hemp bag. It was a snake with a head that expanded. It was as thick as a person's wrist. Who knew who had begun screaming, as everyone hastily took a step back. A cobra, it was a venomous snake that was rumored to be able to kill anyone with a single bite. The crowd hastily retreated. With her small frame, Yu Fu was nearly knocked over, but Gu Shubai and Gu Jiugu both came to help her. Su Yunyan was also caught off guard, being pushed around, but Gu Hanamo saw this and slightly raised an eyebrow. He hesitated about whether or not to help her. He should forget it, right? Letting her suffer a fall would also be good. Who told her to always bully Yu Fu? With a thud, Su Yunyan fell to the ground. The snake heard a strange sound from the bag and suddenly raised itself up before flying straight at Su Yunyan. Little Senior Disciple, Part 3, Awe. After Su Yunyan looked up and came face to face with a cobra that was taking in the situation, she let out a loud shriek. The snake-taming father and son trembled in fear at this sight and hid off to the side. "Dad, I told you about this before, that this snake is hard to tame, yet you insisted on having me bring it out." The youth was so scared that he began to cry. If their snake bit someone to death in the capital, they would definitely be captured and imprisoned by city officials. Hiss. Finished with taking in the situation, the snake shot forward to attack Su Yunyan. Gu Hanamo flew forward, his sword shining with a cold light, and cut the snake in half. He had not helped support Su Yunyan and just allowed her to fall over. Now, she could be considered as having atoned. Gu Hanamo turned his head and looked at Su Yunyan with some rarely seen enthusiasm. "It's fine. Quickly get up." After saying this, he extended a hand to her and helped her up from the ground. "It's fine." Su Yunyan looked scared silly. Reaching her hand up in a daze, she felt her neck and found that her hand was covered in black blood. She had been bitten by the snake. The snake-taming father and son saw that the situation was bad. Picking up their things, they wanted to flee but were pulled over by Gu Jiugu and his sword. You want to run? Bring out the medicine for the venom. Fearing injury, the onlookers had already scattered. The father and son were kowtowing and pleading, "Young sir, people bitten by the cobra can't be saved, not even by an immortal at the peak of their power. Where could any medicine come from?" No medicine. Gu Jiugu furrowed his brow and hastily dropped both of them to the ground to ensure that they could not escape. Turning his head, he found that Su Yunyan had fainted in Gu Hanmo's arms, and Yu Fu had quickly stuck some needles into her body. "Eldest brother, quickly help me find some gelsemium flowers. Go quickly. Yao Lan, immediately go back and bring me my chest of treasures, quickly." In the golden autumn, Yu Fu's forehead was covered in a layer of sweat, and her voice carried a rarely seen strictness. Yao Lan complied and hastily ran in the direction from which they had come. Gu Shubai knew that the situation was critical and hastily said, "There is a medicine shop over there. They might have what you need in there." Gu Hanmo immediately carried Su Yunyan in the direction of the medicine shop. In just a short span of time, her lips had already turned purple. "Doctor, do you have any gelsemium flowers? Isn't this the eldest young sir of Marquis Gu's manor? What herb did you say you needed? This lowly one does not have any." Gu Shubai made a prompt decision and said to Gu Hanmo, "You take care of the two of them. I'll go and look for gelsemium flowers." He had never even heard of the medicinal herb that Yu Fu had mentioned. He could only go from one medicine shop to another in hopes of finding it. Not long later, Yao Lan returned with Yu Fu's medicine kit. A long line of people was also following along behind her. Yunyan, wake up." Madame Su rushed to her side. Seeing the usually lively Su Yunyan quietly lay there, it looked as if she was dead. Tears immediately began to stream down her face. "Eldest sister, don't worry. Let Yu Fu treat her first." Nobody dared to ask Madame Su to move away. Gu Huaijiang was the only one who could lead her away, as Yu Fu hastily opened her medicine kit and began to look through the various bottles and cans. With a silver needle in her hand and a serious expression on her face, they saw her poke those silver needles into various acupuncture points on Su Yunyan's body. "Yu Fu, what are you poking her with?" Madame Su was choked with sobs. Seeing Yu Fu work with a solemn expression, she did not dare to disturb her. She could only ask quietly, "It's poison." Fighting poison with poison, the effect of the snake's venom on the internal organs can be temporarily alleviated. It was poison again. Madame Su was so startled that she nearly fainted on the spot. If not for the fact that she had been using Yu Fu's poison treatment to stave off the cold, she would definitely not have allowed Yu Fu to put all manners of poisons into Su Yunyan's body. "Head General, I need gelsemium flower as soon as possible. Why has eldest brother still not come back?" He had gone to look for gelsemium flowers, but who knew if he could find any? If he could not, the poison in Su Yunyan's body would be disastrous. "Servants, go and meet up with the eldest young sir." Gu Huaijiang observed the situation before him and was feeling extremely anxious. Su Yunyan was Madame Su's everything. She was a widow and only had this one daughter, thus she loved her more than anything. He did not dare imagine what might happen to Madame Su if Su Yunyan truly could not be saved. "Lord Marquis, the eldest young sir has returned." A shout came from outside the medicine shop, and everyone turned to look. Gu Shubai strode forward with a man in strange clothes swaggering in behind him. This person was tall, strong, and rather handsome. It was just his clothes that did not match. No, it seemed that this was Western Kuan's fashion. Who was it that was bitten by a snake and needs gelsemium flowers? The man spoke slowly, but his tone showed that he took delight in the misfortune of others. It was clear that he was in dire need of a spanking. Why had Gu Shubai brought this sort of person back? He immediately saw a young girl seated next to the sofa wearing a small red jacket with a round embroidery that left a bit of her snow-white neck exposed. She was currently performing acupuncture for the girl laying on the sofa who had been bitten by a snake. She was young, but her technique was great. Even through clothing, she did not miss a single acupuncture point. To her side was a strange medicine kit. Based on the smell coming from the kit was filled with exceptional poisons. Yes, these were nice things. On this entire continent, there were not many little girls on this level. At any rate, he had only ever seen one. That person also happened to be an Eastern Ling. Hold on. Was it not this little girl in front of him? The man who delighted in the misfortune of others immediately became respectful and cautious, tentatively calling out, "Little senior disciple." Seventh Prince of Western Kun Yu Fu heard this familiar voice and turned her head, the silver needle in her hand coming to a stop. The serious expression on the beautiful little girl's face gave him quite a fright. Little Seventh. Yu Fu knew this guy. Everyone could not help but begin to re-evaluate him. As Gu Shubai said, the special envoy from Western Kun arrived in the capital today. While I was searching for the gelsemium flowers, I happened to run into him. He said that he had some, thus I brought him over. Gu Shubai was also unclear about his background and only knew that he was one of the special envoys. At the time, he was in a rush and did not think about it too much. Carefully looking at him now, he found that the person before him was wearing unusual clothes and had a loud presence. He did not seem like an ordinary envoy. He actually knew Yu Fu and referred to her as little senior disciple. Everyone was confused, not knowing why a man in his 20s would call Yu Fu, 12-year-old little girl, senior disciple. You have gelsemium flowers, correct? Quickly bring it out. Yu Fu's tone was very conversational, but it also carried a commanding quality. It was as if she was ordering around her own maidservant. No, she always treated Lian Zhu, Lian Bai, and the others very warmly. There was never a commanding tone. Who exactly was this man? Focused on saving a life, Yu Fu did not have any desire to chat with him, nor did she think that she needed to explain things to everyone else. She just coolly extended a hand to request the items. Sure enough, the man obediently pulled out the gelsemium flower from his sleeve. It was a herb that resembled honeysuckle. Furthermore, he handed it over with both hands. Yu Fu pried Su Yunyan's mouth open and directly placed the entire herb into her mouth but did not care whether or not if she swallowed it. Are you not going to cut it a little? The man covered his face. It seemed as though he could not bear to watch this directly. There's no time. By the time that it gets cut up, the snake venom will have assaulted her brain. Yu Fu saw that she could not swallow the herb, thus she simply started pushing the medicine down. This was a sight that left everyone watching in a complete daze. Apparently, medicine could be taken like this too. TSK, what a wicked person. A gelsemium flower the size of a fingernail is enough to poison Shenong to death, yet you actually placed an entire clump of it into her mouth. The man was still happy to delight in the misfortune of others. What did you say? What is this about poisoning Shenong to death? Madame Su looked at him in complete shock. Was this gelsemium flower not meant to counteract the snake venom? How could it poison a person to death? The man looked over. There were tears still lingering on Madame Su's face. He then looked over at the girl laying on the bed. Although Yu Fu had pried open her mouth to shove in some medicine, he could still notice the similarities between the two. This one would be the patient's mother, right? The man's tone changed and suddenly became serious. Did you not know? This gelsemium flower is also known as heartbreak herb. Legend has it that Shenong was tasting all manners of herbs. At the very end, Shenong saw a yellow flower in bloom. He ate a petal and died after his organs failed. This sort of herb was the heartbreak herb. Madame Sue's eyes rolled back and immediately fainted. Everyone hastily rushed to her side, and Gu Huaijiang gave this man an unhappy look. This glance caused the man to tremble and become startled. Gu Huaijiang was a god of war on the battlefield. He was the head general of Eastern Ling who had won countless battles. He was also a nightmare for the people of Western Kuan. Rumors said that he was invincible, possessed great skill in martial arts, and no evil could get near him. Even the Kunlun snow was healed without the need for medicine. In the beginning, he actually believed this to be the case. It was only after hearing that Yu Fu was at Gu Huaijiang's side that he finally found out being healed without medicine was bullshit. It was clearly Yu Fu who had treated the poison. "Greetings, Lord Marquis Gu." He respectfully bowed. Just as Gu Huaijiang was about to ask about his identity, some movement suddenly came from Yu Fu's side. She had finally managed to stuff all of the gelsemium flower into Su Yunyan's mouth and instructed a maidservant to pour some water into Su Yunyan's mouth. Wiping the sweat from her brow, she stood up. "Madame Su, Sister Su has already, huh?" How did Madame Su end up fainting? When she had been focusing on treating her patient, she was completely oblivious to everything else that was happening. "Oh, it's fine. How is Yunyan?" Gu Huaijiang glanced at Madame Su. Older people could not endure such a shock. She would be fine after a little bit of time. Sister Su is already fine. She will wake up after a little while. Since both the cobra and the gelsemium flower come from Shenongjia, they both possess similar characteristics. I used acupuncture to seal her meridians, and the poisonous herbs will break through the snake venom. It's just that she will be quite weak for a while. It was good that she was fine. Everyone let out a sigh of relief, especially Gu Hanamo who had refused to act in a time of need. If Su Yunyan really did end up dying from the snake venom, he would have blamed himself for the rest of his life. He would have always regretted not reaching out to help Su Yunyan. Thinking of this, he gave Yu Fu a sincere look of gratitude. "Young miss must be extremely tired, right?" Yao Lan stepped forward and used a handkerchief to wipe away the sweat. Every time that Yu Fu did something seriously, she would sweat profusely. Her demeanor would also become extremely serious. Little senior disciple quickly explained to Lord Marquis Gu. "I'm too scared." The man shrugged his shoulders and threw up his hands. Being stared at by Gu Huaijiang's imposing gaze, he was afraid that this stare would bore a hole through him. "Oh, right." Yu Fu tugged at the man's sleeve and said slightly awkwardly, He is my junior disciple." Would she need to reveal his true identity? Yu Fu's head was hurting from thinking too hard. She knew that the man before her did not have his name listed as part of the special envoy. His status was a little too unique. She was afraid that saying it out loud would cause trouble. "My name is Kuan Wushang. I am the 7th Prince of Western Kuan." The man did not wait for Yu Fu to finish speaking and introduced himself. After saying this, he even looked at Yu Fu delightedly. "Kuan Wushang, the 7th Prince of Western Kuan." Gu Shubai's heart skipped a beat, as he thought to himself that things were not good. Yu Fu knew the 7th Prince of Western Kuan. Could it be that she really was a princess of Western Kuan? Life-saving benefactor, he is older than me, but I have seniority over him. After returning to Marquis Gu's manor and ensuring that Su Yunyan's condition had stabilized, everyone began to ask about Kuan Wushang. Yu Fu spoke earnestly and with a hint of pride, "We disciples of Immortals Valley have been learning in the valley from a young age." He only came a few years ago. Master said that the people of Western Kun came to learn in order to deal with people of Eastern Ling. Master has remained neutral and has not done much to look after students with such intentions. Even if he is the 7th prince of Western Kun, he is just a lackey in the valley. PFT. Gui nearly spat out a mouthful of tea. Little Yufu, your master is truly too interesting. It's no wonder I heard second brother say that you appeared quite mighty in front of the 7th prince. It's a pity that I didn't get to see it. It's all Teacher Lin's fault. Of all the times to hold us back. He just had to do it today, which led to me missing this great scene. He had never seen Yufu get serious. He heard that she became extremely strict upon becoming serious, which was completely unlike her usual lively self. When Yunyan wakes up later, if she finds out that you wanted to see her get bitten by a venomous snake, she will definitely be sure to thank you properly. Gu Zhougu sipped tea while looking sideways at Gu Yi, his eyes shining with a glimmer. Yufu, you and the 7th prince. Did you really only meet in Immortals Valley? Gu Xiang asked the question that everyone wanted to ask. A few days earlier, Gu Huaijiang discovered that his sons trained in martial arts had suddenly become very interested in reading. They all liked to sneak into the outer study. If they found anything related to Western Kun, they would be taken out to be studied. They truly were quite studious. He knew that everyone was suspecting one thing and wanted a way to verify it. That one thing was Yufu's identity. Was she, or was she not someone from Western Kun? If she was, which family's young miss was she? That's right. We first met in Immortals Valley. What's wrong? Yufu did not know that everyone was speculating about her identity, and she replied without any hesitation. There was no chance that this was a lie. Then why did you just send him off after saving Su Yunyan? It seemed that you were very worried that he would say something to us. Yufu, she was indeed worried. But what she was worried about was different from what the others thought she was worried about. She was worried that Kun Wushang would accidentally leak her true identity. Well, looking at Yufu's reaction, even if Kun Wushang already knew her, he might not know her identity. Forget it. Since she did not want to reveal it, they did not want to force her to reveal it. Lord Marquis, the young miss has woken up. Qi Zhou suddenly rushed in from outside the courtyard, and Gu Huaijiang quickly stood up upon hearing this. I'll go take a look. I'm also going. Gu Yi also rushed to follow behind him, and everyone looked at him strangely. How strange, haven't you always been on bad terms with Yunyan? When the two of you are together, you're always arguing so noisily. Why are you so worried about her now? Gu Xiang clearly knew something and smiled wickedly, deliberately making him look bad in front of everyone. Gu Yi put an embarrassed expression. What are you saying? She is our cousin. No matter how bad things are, we need to worry about her life. He then ran out, very obviously trying to hide something. He was worried that his older brothers would laugh at him. Sure enough, a round of laughter erupted behind him. I see that 6th brother has some feelings for Yunyan. He's just too scared to admit it. The two of them have been arguing and fighting since childhood, but it's clear that there are feelings between the two. That's right, let's also go and take a look. Saying this, everyone followed along and headed toward Lotus Courtyard. In the inner room, Madame Su lay next to the bed, her face slightly pale. When everyone entered the room, they saw Su Yunyan laying on the bed with a mauve bed curtain covering half of her face. On the half of her face that was exposed, her complexion was not bad. The venom must no longer be a problem. It was just that she had not yet woken up. Auntie, you have not yet fully recovered. You should go back and rest. Everyone began pleading with Madame Su, but she gently shook her head. It's just a chronic illness. It's not a big problem. I'm going to wait here for Yunyan to wake up. Only like this can I feel at ease. In the group, she saw Yu Fu standing next to Gu Shubai, and her eyes lit up a little. Gu Shubai thought to himself that this was not good. Yu Fu's methods for treating Su Yunyan looked quite vicious. Madame Su would not be thinking of blaming her, right? Yu Fu, come over here. Sure enough, Madame Su waved to her. Before anyone could stop her, Yu Fu had already begun walking over. Madame Su, the situation today required expedience, and I could only use a risky method to treat Sister Su's condition. Please do not think poorly. What sort of thing are you saying? Could it be that I am such an unreasonable person to you? Madame Su cut her off, but her tone was warmer than it had ever been before. She pulled Yu Fu into a hug, and a pair of warm tears streamed down her face. You are Yunyan's life-saving benefactor. If Yunyan did not survive, I too could not live on. We have not treated you kindly, yet you saved Yunyan's life. How should I thank you? As a woman of noble birth who had experienced many things in life and endured many hardships, she was very practiced in not letting her emotions show. To allow tears to fall in front of Yu Fu, it could be seen just how grateful she felt. Having been pulled into her embrace, Yu Fu could smell the scent of jasmine flower in her hair and suddenly felt very nostalgic. This was the smell of her mother. She smiled and shook her head. This was something that I should do. Sister Su treated me very well. She was the one who invited me to go out. It was only because of this that I had a chance to save her. Ever since Su Yunyan recovered, it was as if she had become a totally different person. She began to act solicitous towards Yu Fu. Though the words she said were not great, she did not neglect any of the things that should be done. These are some candied haws that my maidservant went out to buy today. I got bored of them. If you like them, you can have them. Su Yunyan eagerly ran over to the western wing while holding a bundle of round candied haws wrapped in brown paper. But upon seeing Yu Fu, she pretended to be indifferent. Yu Fu just accepted them with a bright smile. The package was full, and Su Yunyan did not like eating snacks from the outside. It was very clear that they had been bought for her. Yu Fu did not expose her. She just smiled and popped one into her mouth. The sweet taste caused her smile to bloom like a flower. It's so sweet. Thank you, Sister Su. Yu Fu's cheeks were stuffed very full, as she casually asked, but why are these candied haws all separated? The candied haws that I see being sold on the outside are all sold on a stick. This was not bought out on the streets. I specifically had someone bring a vendor in to make them. I personally watched him make them to ensure their cleanliness. I'll try one too. Su Yunyan originally did not like eating these things, but seeing Yu Fu eat them with such relish, she could not help but pick one up. She did not seem to realize that what she had just said contradicted what she had said previously. Yu Fu could not hold back and secretly laughed, as Gu Yi strode into the room. What goodies are you eating? You didn't even call me. Upon seeing the red candied haws in the package, he reached out and snatched one, then tossed it into his mouth. He then saw the half-eaten one in Su Yunyan's hand. Don't you never eat candied haws, saying that the things bought on the streets can't be clean? How did you end up eating them today? These were definitely not unclean candied haws. Su Yunyan glanced at him sideways. What does it matter to you? You came just in time. I have something to ask you. What is it? Gu Yi very quickly finished eating one and licked his fingers before picking up another. Su Yunyan slowly stood up and slowly walked behind him, speculating in a sinister tone. I heard that someone said that they wanted to see me get poisoned and that it was a pity that you missed it. Isn't that right? After saying this, she grabbed hold of Gu Yi's neck, as he sent the candied haw in his mouth flying out in fright. Gritting his teeth, his eyes were opened wide. I'm innocent. Which bastard told you this? That's not it. I was saying that I wanted to see little Yu-Fu teach that 7th prince a lesson. I heard that you were quite ugly when you had your mouth pried open to be given medicine. Who would want to see that? You. And he said that he was innocent. He very clearly wanted to see her make a fool of herself. Su Yunyan did not let go, and Gu Yi stood up to move her hand away. The two wrestled for a while, with neither side letting go. Lian Bai and the others saw this and wanted to go and break up the fight. Yu Fu gave them a look, and they all quietly backed down. The 6th young sir and the related young miss were fighting to such a degree, so why did young miss not let them break up the fight? Don't worry. They won't actually start fighting for real. Yu Fu fully devoted herself to eating candied haws. With a cheerful smile, she watched the two fight, her eyes taking the shape of crescent moons. Though Gu Yi was small, if he truly took action, not even the average male could be his opponent, much less Su Yunyan. He was deliberately letting her do this. Oh! What are the two of you doing? Gu Jiugu walked in from the outside and saw Gu Yi and Su Yunyan chasing each other around, and they nearly bumped into him. This gave him a bit of a scare. Haha, second brother, you've come. Before Yu Fu needed to give any instructions, Lian Bai had already brought out a new cup of tea and placed it next to Gu Jiugu. Smiling, he looked at her and nodded, and the latter's face turned a bit red, as she slowly retreated to the side. Western Kuan's special envoy has already moved into the post house, but that 7th prince's name is not on the list of envoys, and he has been very restless. To the people of Western Kuan, our Marquis Gu's manor is without a doubt a formidable enemy. Why do you think he is being so proactively friendly? Proactively friendly. Yu Fu thought for a bit. Are you talking about the gelsemium flowers? If you are, we should thank you. If he did not happen to have some on him, I fear what would have happened to Sister Su. Moreover, the gelsemium flowers could only be considered a coincidence. How could it be said that Kuan Wushang was being proactively friendly? Gu Jiugu looked at her. He is currently in the front parlor drinking tea with father. I just came to tell you about it. After all, he is your junior disciple. It would be best if you went to see him. He actually dared to come to the manor. Yu Fu was extremely shocked. What sort of bravery pill had this Kuan Wushang taken? Did he really think that Western Kuan sending a few unremarkable envoys would make the two countries friends? If Emperor Ning suddenly decided to hold him as a hostage, let's just see if he settles down or not. Not only did he come, but he came claiming to be the life-saving benefactor of Marquis Gu's manor. He came asking for tea and water. Our Eastern Ling is a country of principles, and he did indeed save Yunyan's life with the gelsemium flowers, thus father found it hard to chase him out. But if you don't chase him out, if His Majesty finds out that the 7th Prince of Western Kuan had private meetings with Marquis Gu's manor, would it not be even more suspicious? Prime Minister Yin's eyes are still focused on our manor. I fear that he will use this to cause a stir. This Kuan Wushang did not happen to come with the intention of sowing discord, right? Thinking of how this might negatively affect Marquis Gu's manor, Yu Fu immediately became nervous. Pursing her small lips, she bit her lower lip. Second brother, don't worry. I'll go and chase him out. After saying this, she grabbed Gu Jiugu's sleeve and hastily rushed toward the front parlor. Lord Marquis Gu, I've heard for a long time that your Eastern Ling is a country that emphasizes etiquette, so why is it that you look so unhappy to see this prince? Kuan Wushang had a bargaining chip, thus he was not as polite to Gu Huaijiang as before. He was certain that Gu Huaijiang would not do anything to him. He was the one who saved his darling niece's life. Nobody who knew anything about etiquette would return kindness with enmity. Gu Huaijiang glanced at him, and the latter trembled slightly before quickly regaining his cheeky grin. I say, Lord Marquis Gu, don't scare me. This prince is easily frightened. If I end up getting frightened, others might think that Lord Marquis Gu is the type of person who can't even be polite to a life-saving benefactor. He smiled shamelessly. With a foot on the chair, he sat very casually. At the same time, he picked up his cup of tea and took a sip before spitting it back out. The tea is cold. Quickly go and get another cup. The male servant standing to the side watched on in shock. This prince from Western Kun really did not think of himself as an outsider. Even when the eldest prince and second prince of this country came, they would not act so arrogantly. Was he not just flaunting the fact that he had saved the related young miss? Considering the contributions, was it not young Miss Yu Fu who put in the most work? He merely provided the herb to treat the venom. Thinking of this, the male servant could not stop himself from wanting to speak up for the injustice that his master was suffering. Gu Huaijiang gave him a look, and he could only obediently retreat to pour more tea. Gu Huaijiang stood up and walked to the door, giving Qi Zhou some instructions. Send someone to the palace to tell His Majesty everything that happened with Kun Wushang in great detail. There's no need to conceal anything. Ask His Majesty what he thinks about how this prince from Western Kun should be handled. Understood, I will go immediately. Qi Zhou knew that this was no trivial matter, thus he rushed to set someone off to the palace on a fast horse. Gu Huaijiang turned around and walked back in. Kun Wushang had already begun drinking the new cup of tea, saying with a satisfied look, Lord Marquis Gu, I heard that Yu Fu previously saved your life. Thus you treat her like a daughter, giving her good food and drink. Well, now that I've saved young Miss Su's life, how do you plan on repaying me? He really was not at all polite, taking all of the credit for the saving of Su Yunyan's life. Seventh Prince provided gelsemium flower and helped Yu Fu save Yunyan's life. This Marquis will express my thanks by repaying you 10 times the value of the gelsemium flower. 10 times the value. Kun Wushang immediately became unhappy. Was he treating this as if trying to get rid of a beggar? If the seventh prince does not like this, 100 times is also fine. Gu Huaijiang picked up his cup of tea and gently skimmed the froth on the surface. His voice was even calmer than the surface of the tea. Why is it that Yu Fu gets such good treatment for saving a life, yet I only get repaid with money for saving young Miss Su's life? Was it you who saved Sister Su? The sound of a young girl's rebuke came from outside the door. Yu Fu entered the room and immediately looked toward Kun Wushang. Putting his foot down and bring his legs together, he placed his hands on his knees. Kun Wushang completed all of these actions in an instant, changing from a brazen and unreasonable person to an obedient youth. Gu Zhougu was stunned to see this. He then heard him politely say, Little senior disciple, you've come. This was more like it. If I did not come, I fear that you would be fluffing yourself up as the savior. Sister Su's life was saved by me. You only provided the gelsemium flower. How did you end up as the benefactor? Yu Fu spoke with certainty, and Kun Wushang no longer dared to spout nonsense. How can that be nonsense? If I did not speak like this, would the second young sir have gone to get you? As he said this, Gu Shubai and the others arrived after hearing the news. They all looked at him with unkind looks. Hey, since everyone is gathered, this prince will announce a very important matter. You all must know that I am not part of Western Kun's special envoy. I came as a disciple of Immortals Valley. Master instructed me to bring little senior disciple back. What? Now, even Gu Huaijiang lost his calm. Yu Fu was even more stunned. Ever since Yu Fu arrived in Marquis Gu's manor, he had never thought that Yu Fu would leave. He always felt that he would need to take care of her for many years until she became of age and had no choice but to get married. It had not even been a full year, so why had someone come to take her away? It was not just him, as Gu Shubai and the others were even more shocked. They never thought that Kun Wushang would bring this sort of news. They would rather he came to scam them of food and to play at being a lord than take away Yu Fu. No, little Yu Fu won't leave with you. Gu Xiang reflexively spat this out but felt that his words were groundless. It was Yu Fu's master who wanted to take her back to the place where she grew up. What right did they have to stop her? It was Yu Fu who was the fastest to recover. Did master say it like that? Little seventh, if you dare to pass along a fake order, I will definitely have master chase you out. You know that I can do it. Her pupils contracted, and a dangerous light flickered in her eyes, as she stared fixedly at Kun Wushang. This was the first time that everyone had seen Yu Fu like this. Kun Wushang could not stop himself from coughing a couple times. He did not speak, but everyone could see that he was lacking in confidence. Little senior disciple, don't be so fierce. I will admit that I just wanted to see just how unwilling the Marquis family was to let you go. I already saw it on their faces just now. In truth, Master wanted me to shut your mouth. Wearing a thick little jacket, Yu Fu raised her small hand. With a flick of her wrist, 5 poisonous silver needles appeared between her fingers. Master said that liars need to be punished. Right now, I shall take Master's place in teaching you a lesson. Let's see if you dare to deceive me again, humph. After saying this, the needles flew out. With a flicker of cold light, 5 needles stabbed into Kun Wushang. Little senior disciple, Kun Wushang raised his head to look at her in shock, not knowing when she had learned this ability. She had actually managed to accurately hit 5 acupuncture points at the same time. His body was now completely unable to move. Yu Fu seemed to be very satisfied with her accuracy, smiling and rubbing her nose. Servants, come and throw him out. Watching Kun Wushang's body get tossed out the front gate, Yu Fu's mood finally improved. In truth, her earlier unhappiness was not any less than what Gu Huaijiang and the others experienced. She was also very shocked. She had only been away from Immortals Valley for half of a year, yet she no longer wanted to return. It might be because this place had many people that she cared about. She turned her head and found that everyone was looking at her in awe. Gu Xiang, Gu Yi, and the others even began to clap. Amazing, little Yu Fu, you're really too amazing. It turned out that she really was extremely strict when dealing with Kun Wushang. She really did fit the mold of a senior disciple. Su Yunyan looked on in even more shock. She thought that Yu Fu was easy to push around, but it turned out that she was not easy to bully. She simply could not be bothered to argue back. Yu Fu. If I knew sooner that you could reduce a person to that state with just a few needles, would never have dared to bully you. A cold sweat broke out on Su Yunyan's back. It felt as if she had mistaken a fierce tiger for a small kitten and teased it for a long time. That she managed to survive was a result of her being lucky. Gu Shubai looked at Yu Fu with a smile until she became embarrassed. He's a flippant person. He was the same back in Immortals Valley, frequently deceiving me. That's why I was a little fierce in dealing with him. Of all the things that he decided to lie to me about, he chose to say that Master wanted to take me back. I was so scared. That's why, there was no need to say too much. Everyone understood. Because everyone else was also extremely scared upon hearing that. Indeed, he is flippant. It's a good thing that you punished him. After all, he is the 7th prince of Western Kun. If we were the ones to take action, I fear that Western Kun would have made use of that to assault our border region once more. Gu Jiugu glanced at Gu Huaijiang. If not for this, father would have chased him out long ago. When the relationship between the two countries was brought up, Yu Fu thought of another matter. Oh right, head general, if His Majesty finds out that he came to Marquis Gu's manor, will he become suspicious? Not too long ago, he had refused a marriage offer from Emperor Ning. If some unclear relations began to surface, it was possible that it would arouse suspicion. Gu Huaijiang said, I already sent someone to ride into the palace and relay the matter regarding Kuan Wushang's appearance to His Majesty. Rather than waiting for others to spread negative speculation, it would be better for me to take the initiative to prove my innocence. His Majesty knows that you are from Immortals Valley. He is also unable to say anything when it comes to interactions between disciples. He had a very thorough understanding of Emperor Ning's thought processes. In such a short span of time, he was actually able to make the decision to send someone into the palace to report. He was such a meticulous person, yet he did not become a manipulative government official. Instead, he chose to shed blood and sweat on the battlefield to protect his family and his country. Gu Huaijiang was truly worthy of admiration. Yu Fu nodded vigorously. I will tell him not to come to the manor in the future. That will be sure to prevent any trouble. If he insists on coming, I will chase him out. Su Yunyan glanced outside while tightening her collar. Yu Fu, he should be fine, right? Just throwing him out like this, nothing will happen, right? After all, he was the one who provided the gelsemium flowers that saved Su Yunyan's life. She did not wish for any harm to come to him. Don't worry. He's also someone trained in poisons. He's all too familiar with my poison needles and will quickly be able to unlock his meridians. Every time that Yu Fu brought up Kuan Wushang, her tone was filled with disgust. However, her eyes would sparkle. Some who saw this became jealous. Yu Fu and Kuan Wushang must have known each other for many years, right? She had only known them for half a year. It was as Yu Fu had said, Kuan Wushang was a flippant person. Marquis Gu's manor closed its doors to him, and he did not cause a fuss. Instead, he had someone write a list of grievances. When Gu Huaijiang received it, his hands began to tremble. He wanted to stay at home for a little longer and did not want to rush back to the battlefield. Looking a little more carefully, the list of grievances did not say anything about how Eastern Ling had incurred the wrath of the people and deserved to be attacked, nor did it say anything about the extravagance of Marquis Gu's manor. Instead, it was an accusation of Gu Huaijiang not taking good care of Yu Fu. On a certain day of a certain month of a certain year, Gu Jiugu, Gu Xiang, and Gu Yi took Yu Fu out to sail on the river. After she fell into the water, she was only saved after a quarter of an hour had passed. On a certain day of a certain month of a certain year, Gu Huaijiang gave Yu Fu too many supplements, which caused her to have a nosebleed. On a certain day of a certain month of a certain year, the aunt of Marquis Gu's manor and her daughter made unpleasant faces at Yu Fu, saying that she was a girl from the wilderness. Gu Huaijiang was dripping in a cold sweat after reading it. He always felt that he had not taken good care of Yu Fu. Now, this was quite grand. It had been written down very clearly. Shameful, so shameful. Father, I heard that Kuan Wushang sent someone to deliver something. What was it? Gu Shubai rushed over upon hearing the news. At first, he was worried. After seeing the letter, he did not know whether to laugh or cry. So this prince from Western Kuan didn't come to bring Yu Fu back to Immortals Valley. Instead, he came to support Yu Fu. It's possible that the deity of medicine is worried that Yu Fu has been wronged here, thus he sent him over. That was from when Yu Fu just arrived at the manor, and we were not familiar with things. Where has there been anything like falling into the water or suffering from nosebleeds recently? Your aunt and Yunyan dote on her even more than we do. Who dares to treat her unfairly? When Gu Huaijiang thought of this, he felt confident to stand up a little straighter. Shu Bai, do you think that father is really that inept at looking after a daughter? Even the greatest of heroes needed a feeling of approval. In his life, Gu Huaijiang had received a great deal of approval, but he had never been praised when it came to raising Yu Fu. Even that imperial physician's son dared to say to his face that Yu Fu should be invited back with him to recover. Gu Shubai was stumped by his question. It was only after quite some time that he put on an awkward and restrained smile. Emperor Ning was receiving the special envoy from Western Kuan when he found out about the existence of Kuan Wushang. After Gu Huaijiang sent someone into the palace to report on the situation, he sent someone to investigate matters related to this seventh prince and felt that he had a grasp on the situation. Emperor Kuan had many sons. Adding all of his sons together, there were more than 20. This seventh prince was just a nobody. His birth mother was a lowly beauty. After he grew up, he was sent by Emperor Kuan to learn in Immortals Valley and become the deity of medicine's disciple. From that moment, he very rarely returned to Western Kuan. Thinking about it, Emperor Kuan must have forgotten that he even had such a son, right? It was no wonder he dared to rashly come to Eastern Ling even though the two countries have frequently been engaged in conflict. A prince that did not even have enough value to become a hostage, Emperor Ning also could not be bothered to deal with him. Just go ahead and visit Marquis Gu's manor. A prince who is often away from Western Kuan, was there any chance that he could become a spy? It seemed that Marquis Gu's manor really did not like him. Apparently, every time he visited, he would be stopped outside. Even if he forced his way in, he would quickly be chased out by Yu Fu. Our Eastern Ling is a country that emphasizes courtesy. Though this seventh prince does not have a high standing, he is still a prince. He should be treated properly. Don't let the people of Western Kuan feel as though we are giving them the cold shoulder, which they might use to start another fight. Emperor Ning specifically called the eldest prince and the second prince and gave them instructions. The two princes exchanged a look and thought to themselves that having princes of this country take care of a prince from Western Kuan was indeed proper, but this might also be a test. What should they do to ensure that it did not look like they were giving them the cold shoulder while also showing the might of Eastern Ling? This was not an easy task. Father Emperor, don't worry. Son will definitely take good care of Western Kuan's prince and will not let Father Emperor down. The eldest prince respectfully cupped his hands in a salute. The second prince glanced at him with a bit of disdain. When he turned to look back up at the emperor, that previous look had disappeared and been replaced with a gentle hospitable expression. Father Emperor, don't worry. Son will also take care to learn from eldest brother and the officials. I will not waste this training provided by Father Emperor. Emperor Ning's imperial visage bloomed with joy. Good. Being able to think like this, we are able to feel at ease. You two brothers need to work together. Only like that is it possible to prove my Eastern Ling's might. Got it? The eldest prince modestly said, Son understands and will definitely take good care of teaching second brother and help share Father Emperor's burdens. The word teaching was a little grating to the ear, but Emperor Ning did not hear it while rejoicing. The second prince slightly bit his lower lip. Who would be teaching whom? That was still not clear. Seventh prince, I heard that your Western Kuan's customs focus on bravery. Even girls are able to set foot on the battlefield. Seventh prince, since you have spent a great deal of time in Immortals Valley, I wonder if you have any interest in archery or riding horses. The eldest prince had invited Kuan Wushang to the martial arts training area to observe the sons of aristocratic families train. Kuan Wushang snorted and casually looked around. Even if it was not everyone, at least 9 in 10 were very skilled in archery. Was this intended to let him observe, or was this meant as a threat? Oh my, this is so boring. I hate these things the most. How can this even compare to drying medicinal herbs? Look at your Easternling's great archers. All of them are tanned to the point of having such oily dark skin. It's so ugly. He flicked his sleeve, as he was not even willing to give the eldest prince any face. He just walked into the corridor to drink some tea. The eldest prince's expression became a little embarrassed. Eldest brother, I told you before that you should not have brought in these people who are proficient in riding and archery. It's immediately clear that they were specifically brought in. Of course, Kun Wushang could only say that this was boring. The second prince walked up from behind, feeling a little bit delighted in the eldest prince's failure. To show my Easternling's might, this is the only way. Could it be that these people skilled in riding and archery are inferior to the young sirs that second brother brought? That would truly have made us look like fools. He was a ruthless person hidden behind a mask of kindness, subtly mocking the second prince's skill in riding and archery. Having Kun Wushang feel that eldest brother is embarrassing him might cause even more troubles, no? Western Kun and Easternling have been fighting year after year, and Father Emperor continues to send Lord Marquis Gu year after year to fight these battles. His control over the army will grow tighter and tighter. Could it be that eldest brother wants to see such a thing? The eldest prince was slightly shocked and gave him a look of warning. Second brother must not spout such nonsense. Lord Marquis Gu has been utterly loyal to the country and fought hard on the battlefield. He has worked hard and made valuable contributions. What control over the army or whatever? What is wrong with it remaining in his hands? After saying this, he took the first step and headed in Kun Wushang's direction. It seemed as though he wanted to console him about something. Such hypocrisy. The second prince quietly mumbled behind him. I say, eldest prince, the tea you serve here is really disgusting. It's not even as good as the tea at Marquis Gu's manor. Kun Wushang pushed the teacup to the side in disdain, raising his legs and resting them directly on the chair across from him. The eldest prince was just about to sit down, but seeing the tip of his foot swaying back and forth and knocking off bits of yellow dirt, he stood up straight once more. It's natural that the tea at the training ground would not be as good as the tea in the palace. All of the tea in Marquis Gu's manor was given to him by Father Emperor. Like the tea in the palace, it's the best of the best. If seventh prince cannot come to like this tea, I will send someone back to the palace to fetch some. Why bother? Kun Wushang immediately brought his feet back down. He then leaned forward and wiped away the dirt from the chair. Feeling that he could not wipe it clean, he decided to use his sleeve to wipe it. Eldest prince, please sit. The eldest prince slightly furrowed his brow. He seemed to look down on this quite a bit, but he still sat down. How much of a bother is going to the palace? Wouldn't it be better to go directly to Marquis Gu's manor? I recall Marquis Gu's manor also having such a training ground. If we just go to learn directly from the young sirs of Marquis Gu's family, would it not be better? So he just wanted to go to Marquis Gu's manor. The eldest prince suddenly laughed. I previously heard that seventh prince often visits Marquis Gu's manor, but you are always stopped outside. Even if you do get it, you end up getting chased out by Sister Yufu. Here I was thinking that it was just a joke, but it really was true. Kun Wushang heard Yufu's name, and his ears suddenly perked up. Are eldest prince and Yufu very close? Why do you call her sister? Of course, very close. The second prince walked up from behind them and inserted himself into the conversation. Seventh prince only knows of Lord Marquis Gu's magnificence on the battlefield but likely doesn't know that my father emperor treats him like a brother. Even Danyang and I will respectfully call him Uncle Gu. Yu Fu is his adopted daughter. It's natural that we would call her sister. So it was this sort of convoluted relationship. Kuan Wushang laughed derisively without holding back. She's just an adopted daughter. Yu Fu doesn't even address Lord Marquis Gu as father, so why are you guys so anxious to address her as sister? The feelings of the eldest prince and the second prince quickly changed, as they exchanged an awkward glance. This Kuan Wushang really did not think of himself as an outsider, as he had been quite rude on multiple occasions. But this was also good. Dealing with a rude person was far easier than dealing with someone who schemed in silence. I heard that seventh prince must respectfully address Sister Yu Fu as little senior disciple. It's no wonder you don't like us calling her little sister. But even Yu Fu calls me brother Yi Zhao. It would not be good for me not to call her by name, right? Brother Yi Zhao. Kuan Wushang could not help but think a little better of him. The second prince gritted his teeth and thought to himself that the eldest prince really was making use of winning Yu Fu's favor in all kinds of situations. First, he used his favor with Yu Fu to win favor with Marquis Gu's manor. Now, he was using her favor to win favor with Kuan Wushang. So it was like that. Then I've been rude. Sure enough, the way that Kuan Wushang looked at the eldest prince had changed. Compared to the earlier carefree attitude, there was now 30% more respect. The second prince wondered to himself when he should get Yu Fu to call him brother Qingji. Since eldest prince and Yu Fu are so close, how about you take this prince over to Marquis Gu's manor to drink some tea? When we get there, I will show you my archery skills. What do you think? Kuan Wushang looked very expectant, yet he was throwing out quite a weighty idea. The eldest prince and the second prince both wanted to see his skills. Hearing this promise, they rejoiced, and they naturally agreed. Then let's quickly go. Kuan Wushang instantly leaped up from his seat. Dragging the eldest prince along, he did not even look at the second prince. This difference in treatment left the second prince feeling completely convinced. Oh, seventh prince, why have you come again? In front of Marquis Gu's manor, there were servants gathered around in a room to stay warm. Suddenly hearing a knock at the door, they opened it up to take a look and found Kuan Wushang's familiar face before them. With this, the door was immediately closed. Quickly open the door. This prince did not come alone. I brought some important people. As soon as Kuan Wushang opened his mouth, he put on a carefree attitude. The way he was banging on the gate resembled a playboy out in the countryside. How could a prince be so carefree about his appearance? A voice came from the other side of the gate, it's pointless. Not to mention important people, but even if you brought a goddess with you, we can't open the door for you. Seventh prince, please just spare us lowly servants. Hey. The two goddesses standing behind Kuan Wushang had slightly embarrassed expressions. The eldest prince stepped forward and glanced at Kuan Wushang. Seventh prince really is quite amazing. In just a few short days, you've already become familiar with the servants of Marquis Gu's manor. Your tone is extremely familiar. As for the tone of this familiarity, everyone had a tacit understanding. It's me. Will you still not open the gate? The eldest prince frequently visited Marquis Gu's manor, thus the gatekeepers were familiar with his voice. They quickly gave the order to open the gate. Oh. It's the eldest prince. This lowly one is at fault. I did not know that it was the eldest prince outside. Second prince, you've also come. What strange wind was blowing today that would allow Kuan Wushang to invite them out? It's us. Is Uncle Gu in? The eldest prince walked in while speaking with the servants. The gatekeeper quickly nodded and said, Our Lord Marquis is not in today. He went to handle some matters at the military camp. But since my sirs have come, how about this lowly one goes to get the eldest young sir? There's no need. Inviting Yu Fu is most important. Kuan Wushang casually rushed to get this out. It seemed that he was not at all worried that Yu Fu would chase him out when she got here. The servant that was speaking was startled. Waving his hand, he had someone quickly run to pass along the message. We will be going to the martial arts training area. Tell your family's eldest young sir later. The second prince very familiarly gave these instructions, and the three headed towards the martial arts training area. The gatekeeper first went to find Gu Shubai, and Gu Shubai sent someone to the western wing to find Yu Fu. The people there said that she had gone to Lotus Courtyard. Madame Su sat on a couch peeling lotus seed hearts. They were lotus seeds that had just been harvested during summer. By removing the bitter cores, they could be used to make all sorts of delightful desserts. Su Yunyan and Yu Fu did not like eating bitter things. If they tasted anything even a little bitter, they would shake their heads and begin frowning. Madame Su personally handled peeling them to guard against others being careless. The two were seated across from Madame Su, each holding bowls of chicken soup, which contained longan, red dates, and things of that nature. Madame Su, this chicken soup tastes better than the one made by the head general. Yu Fu had already finished drinking her soup, and Su Yunyan carefully ladled some more into her bowl from the small pot on the table. That's right. This chicken soup is meant to be drank by girls to supplement their health. Boys can't drink it. Last time, Gui saw me drinking some and asked me for some, but I didn't give him any. Ha! This was the first time that Yu Fu had heard that there was any soup that girls could drink that boys could not. Looking at the contents of the bowl, she could not help but feel a great deal of respect. Su Yunyan turned around. You don't understand. You still haven't had that, right? You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.